Hello and welcome to Babble Scribbler, the podcast in which a bunch of bronies get together to talk about whatever we want. Today we are going to be talking about the horror movies that we love, just in time for a Halloween episode, which is going to be released out of order with the other episode, I promised, but haha, it's my channel, I can do what I want. Today I am joined by Chaotic.
Hi, I am Chaotic, and narrate Ponyfix, pretty much.
Magnetic Hollow.
Hello, I'm that weird non-binary witch person that does art things.
MamiDulugo. Maybe I've got a MamiDulugo, I'm not sure. Mami?
Is it really a podcast if I don't cut out at least once?
Oh, bless. Midori?
I do.
Oh, wait, sorry, no, Mami, carry on.
Fuck you, no! Go on, fine, fuck you. I don't even no, it's fine. It's
First, I thought I was supposed to move on. I'm sorry.
Good. Who cares, right? Just move on.
No, Mammy, introduce yourself, please. Now I'm gonna go die in shame for a minute.
I do art things. Sometimes I'm Applejack.
Best Applejack. Right, I've resurrected to say hi, Midori. Midori wants to be a truck.
No, that's not my introduction. Shut up. No, you, shush. I'm Midori. I am trying to get into voice acting, but for right now, I'm just a really bad writer. And today, you guys get to see my dark side. Yay!
And joining us for the first time alongside Magnetic Hollow is Silver Quill.
Greetings, one and all. I'm the annoying one.
Really? You think you're the annoying one in this chat? That's adorable.
I'm willing to defend that title. But no, I do comics, I do video reviews, I do episode follow-ups, editorials, and comic reviews on the Cresteria Daily. It's good time.
And today you join us. Right.
Join us.
Right, so today we shall be talking about horror movies. We're each going to put forward one horror movie that we love and talk about why we love it and then discuss it with everybody in chat. So, to kick us off then, Chaotic, what is your favourite horror movie and why?
Alright, well, just looking around again real quick and reminded on one that I enjoyed very much so that I had seen recently. It was, A Quiet Place, actually. So, if you've seen or heard of that one.
Well, for the benefits of the audience, do you want to describe what it's about?
Well, the easiest way to describe it is it's post-apocalyptic because of some kind of monsters that have appeared in the world, but the whole premise is that these monsters are hypersensitive to sound. So, for the family that you follow around the whole time, they're dead silent, or as silent as they can be, because otherwise they will be hunted.
And why is this your favourite horror movie?
I'm gonna say, well, I guess the easiest one you could say is the fact that it's not trying to... It's different, is probably one of the biggest ones I guess I can say right now. Because most of them have everybody screaming, running, doing this and that. No, it's... The atmosphere specifically is very, very well tailored. And I would say that's probably one of the things. That, and I also like the monster designs. And there are some other very clever moments during the whole thing that I thought, no, that makes sense. I guess that's probably the best way to put it.
So spoilers from here on in with A Quiet Place. What are the bits that you liked?
First off, the fact that it's a whole family. There's the mother, the father, and they have 2 kids. And in addition, his wife is pregnant, actually. And they're working on actually trying to solve the issue of having the child, because children are loud. Especially a baby. First time come out. So, but they're actually working on creating a quiet room under their barn with everything possible that absorbs sound, because they know how the creatures work. Another big moment that I liked was, I believe what had happened. So the kids are just complete idiots throughout the whole movie, to be entirely honest. But, because they keep just doing things that end up causing fucking sounds. And I'm like, really? Did you not think about that? But I guess maybe they're 10, 12 years old, so I mean...
Plus, every horror movie has to have at least one dumbass, otherwise it's not really a real horror movie.
Yeah, that's true. the way they introduce the monsters in the start of the movie is a good one, I would say. It's because they also originally had a youngest sibling who was like maybe 6-ish or so. And the thing is that they were exploring a town. They were trying to, gather materials and stuff like that. And they've set up paths that they walk on to try and make sure they don't step on gravel, glass, other things that can make noise. Just like taking dirt and like built paths everywhere that they go. But this younger sibling, he wanted a toy. It was as simple as that. He wanted a toy. And unfortunately, it was one that made lots and lots and lots of noise. And he was lagging behind everybody else because he didn't want them to see him turn it on so he could play with it, and then he just fucking got snatched.
So it actually went there and killed a child. Was this the opening kill of the film?
Yes.
Holy shit, the opening kill was the child! That's ballsy.
Yep. That's how they introduced I guess you could say the creature's mechanics, I guess would be a way you could put that. Then there's a point where the monsters are hunting them at night. Somebody did something to attract their attention, and in order to drag the father basically went out and he actually had something set up in order to confuse the monsters. Basically, he set off a bunch of fireworks.
So the banging noises and things.
Yeah, and the loud banging noises and stuff like that actually caused the things to run away because it was over. They were oversensitive to the sound or something like that. So that was one thing. It's like I said, I think it's very clever how they actually tried to work in like the how these things worked and how the family worked to avoid it. So
Definitely seems to be avoiding cliches in that regard.
yes, like I said, it's a different kind of horror movie, and that's what I like the most about it in that regard. And I guess one of the last things I can think of it was really, 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 really tense because one of the creatures eventually is in the house hunting them down and stuff like that. And the issue is that while that's happening, the wife goes into labor. So, yeah.
Because of course.
She had to have some fucking willpower is all I'm going to say. Holy shit.
Yeah, that scene with the wife got to me because it would be so easy to just use it as like a cheap drama token, but like you really feel respect for her with how much she's going through to try and keep her family safe. And it's just like, it's agonizing because that scene is almost entirely quiet because it has to be, but like the suspense is unreal because at any moment if she slips up, like that's it. It's crazy. I actually really like the wife character in that movie just because like the way they treat her could have been so much worse than it was, and they handle her really well.
Plus, she's the voice of Tempest Shadow in the MLP movie.
Really?
Yep,
Was
that's
she?
her.
Oh.
Yep, that's her.
Well, that's good to
great.
know. Okay.
Yeah, that's actually.
Yeah, no,
I knew
absolutely.
her from MLP movie before anything else.
Fair enough.
I have highbrow tastes. Yeah, it sounds really, really tense. You've got to admire a movie that does go for a slow build tension rather than a jump scare. Has anybody else seen A Quiet Place or have any opinions on it?
Just one question. If you're gonna combat them with fireworks, why not just play some Katy Perry at them? Because baby, you're a firework. They'll be dead in seconds.
Copyright claimed.
I mean,
This is my vision of a copyright bot swooping in and stopping the movie.
That's the real villain.
Yeah, exactly. But
We all know it's
YouTube
the real
don't
villain.
strike this particular video, please.
Yeah, way to make fun of your boss, Scribbler.
What? That wasn't me. That was Hollow. Hollow, stop it! Stop trying to get me demonetized.
Technically, it was Silver's fault.
I mean, to be fair, yes. Silver.
See, I told you I'd be the annoying one. But I have heard that in this movie, the only place where they can talk is behind a waterfall, where the natural noise masks their dialogue. So I've always kind of wondered, why did the family not just move closer to the waterfall?
I suppose because if they've got a baby coming, they couldn't really stop infection and things there.
That's true.
well, I mean, I could probably speak a little to it, I guess. Well, first off, because they're still living in their original house is one of the first big ones. And there's still the natural dangers of the rest of the world to consider as well in that regard. Because the creatures, because the thing is, I forget whether or not they went after animals as well. I think they did.
They did.
But they did? Okay. So, but there are still all the other natural dangers, I guess. And, it would make a lot of noise to build a new house next to a waterfall, I guess. I don't know.
That
Don't
makes
ask
sense.
me.
Plus, it's the American wilderness. I don't live in it, but I know that everything fucking tries to kill you when you're there. Bears, mountain lions, fucking spiders.
Yeah,
I think you're thinking of Australia.
Nope, that's just America on crack, but with better gun laws.
Not only that, but I think that it would be very, moist and cold to be, living behind a waterfall or something.
Especially if you were living close enough to it to mask your voices all the time. Because you'd have to be really, really close to the water for that.
They were not behind it, but they were next to it. Like, next to it, so.
So there may not even have been any room to build anything there then.
Yeah, but I think that it's a very interesting concept for a movie, because I've always felt like movies without dialogue, even without sound, are very capable of telling a story. So to create a horror element based on that it was very well done, I felt.
Kind of like the opening of WALL-E. A lot of people have said that that's their favourite part of the film, WALL-E, whatever you pronounce it. I've got a weird accent. The Pixar movie about the little cutie robot romance. They said the opening of that, where it was completely dialogue-free, was their favourite part. And we have an Illya!
Illya!
We sort of have an Illya. I saw the lips flash, that means he's talking, but we couldn't hear anything.
Oh god, it's his ghost.
But since Illya is the voice of God, does that make him the Holy Ghost?
Illya is just imitating the movie that we're talking about, A Quiet Place.
Oh gosh, yes he is.
He's doing the best job out of all of us. We'd all be dead.
You're totally right.
Oh, I wouldn't last 5 minutes.
Yeah. We'd all have been monster chow quite a long time ago.
Speak for yourself, I live on an island.
Yeah, and once they're on the island, you're fucked because you got nowhere to go.
Can they swim?
Can't they swim?
Maybe they can. Maybe they can jump really far.
Well, exactly. How far away is your island from the mainland, Midi?
30-minute boat ride.
If it's like a super... These are alien creatures, aren't they? So we have no idea what they can do.
What if they doggy paddle the whole way there? Would they be as frightening then?
They might be cute while they're paddling, but the moment they touch the land, you fucked.
Exactly. I'm just imagining... does anybody else remember the film After Earth with Will Smith?
That's a different kind of horror.
It is a different kind of horror, but in that, I just remember the alien creatures being dropped out of a craft and crawling out of the water, and they did look quite adorable until they started ripping people to pieces.
Cannot say I've seen that one, unfortunately.
You dodged an absolute bullet. That film is remarkably bad, considering all the talent behind it.
I
Well,
remember
fair
watching
enough.
it. I don't remember anything about it other than Will Smith and his son.
That's because you've suppressed those memories.
Yes, I have.
It's the only way to stay sane having watched After Earth is to completely forget that you've watched After Earth.
You're just making it tempting.
Okay, you can watch it, but you've got to be drunk to enjoy it.
Or you just have fun with the main character's name, Cypher Rage.
Yeah, I've forgotten that was his name.
Rage.
Yeah, Cypher Rage. Okay,
Why
up
did
with
you
that.
sound like a Pokemon?
Cypher Rage!
Remake time.
So does that mean that a Cypher is the evolved version of me Trucky?
No!
Totally is.
I don't even know what a cipher is. How can I evolve into it?
It's
That
like a grasshopper with blades on its fists.
That doesn't follow
So a
the theme at
grasshopper.
all.
Oh, but it does, because it's green, and so are you!
There you go.
Ah!
That's all you need. It just needs to be green.
Pretty much.
Like a Taco Bell shit.
I am
Well
happy
then.
to say Taco Bell does not exist in the UK, and every time I hear jokes about it, I'm like, wow, I'm so glad.
My pre-evolved form is a green tomato.
Just one green tomato you roll on the ground, another Pokemon.
And eventually its rolling turns into a truck.
That's so scary!
Attack of the Killer Midori. Attack of the Killer Midori.
And then my truck sheds its hard shell and turns into a giant grasshopper demon. Cypher.
Yes! Yes!
Is this what you wanted, Illya? We were actually getting work done, and then you came in here.
And suddenly we're back to Midori being a truck. Which, for anybody who has not listened to the supplementary material of what we recorded before this podcast, have no idea why Midori's a truck. Sorry, I literally couldn't breathe for a second there.
We need to figure out how to get Illya working.
We do. We need to get Illya into the chat. Illya,
You're content to take the excuse.
we need to get him in here. We need to have his mellifluous tones in the actual podcast, as opposed to just having his name on the screen.
I need my Morgan Free pony.
Oh, he's screaming help in the text channel.
He's been stuck in the ether. Is his mic plugged in?
I think so. I'm messaging him on Discord because I forgot that my push to talk is caps lock, so I'm shouting in chat.
I thought you were very enthusiastic.
We'll save you, Illya!
I wonder what's going on, because it always works whenever he's been in here before. I wonder...
Everything was fine until Silver and Chaotic showed up. Oh, Chaotic! It's in the name!
I don't know, it's magnetic hollow as well, so maybe the
I was gonna say,
magnetism...
no, it's not my fault.
Well, the magnetism of you has probably fucked up something inside the microphone. I don't know. I just use the things. I don't know how they work.
My powers are too strong. I apologize.
It's like you and Chaotic and Silver all came together to create this magnetic storm of chaos with a silvery lining.
It's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. They're pushing the original cast out.
Shit, they are as well.
Our podcast now.
It really is. Whoa, until Illya had turned up, it was 3-on-3 for new people versus old people. And we need to get Illya in here to even this up.
I see it's Invasion of the Podcast Snatchers.
The killer Midori tomatoes summoned them.
See, this is why I can't be the new NP, because I'm not tech good enough for this. He'd have this figure out like that.
See, there's only one issue with me trying to figure out how to help. I am on the app.
Well, look at you with your apps.
There's an app for this?
It's called Plumble on the Google Store.
Plumble?
Yeah,
That sounds like a Plumbus from Rick and Morty.
the Plumbus.
Is it a humble plumble?
A humble
Humble
Plumble.
Plumble. We mumble in the humble Plumble.
Right now, it's a bumble.
Oh, you want to talk about horror? Just
Believe I might be here.
Ha ha!
And suddenly the voice of God enters the chat.
He appears.
I have a bit of a cold, so my voice is going to sound odd.
God, I didn't think it could sound better, but there it is.
Yep, Illya, you are perfectly fine.
You were gonna say sexy.
No, I was not, but yeah, I
Am I
mean,
too loud? How is the configuration?
it's fine. It's so fine.
It's perfectly
It's
fine.
fine.
It's perfectly fine, Barry White. Anything you want.
I could try to talk in my regular voice, but it breaks up. I can't talk in my regular voice, so
You're fine, Illya.
I have to talk down here is the only way.
Oh, baby.
Midori, you stop! Oh god, I think all the audience just came at once.
Where,
Oh my God, Scribbler!
What?
where are we in this chat?
We were talking about, we were talking about A Quiet Place, the horror movie that came out a couple of years ago, with the voice of Tempest Shadow as the lead character.
I did not see that.
You need to watch it. It's very, very good. But I'd sort of opened it up to everybody to talk about that one before we moved on to the next person. Does anybody have anything else to say about A Quiet Place? Somebody tapped and I missed it. Who was that? Hollow.
Okay, so I haven't seen the the Quiet Place, but the movie this year is similar. It's called The Silence, and it's got a very similar concept, but it's not aliens. It's ancient bat things that they released from under the world, and now they're murdering everyone that makes noises. But one of the main characters is actually deaf, and they use sign language throughout the movie. It's pretty neat.
I think they actually do that in A Quiet Place, don't they? Isn't one of the children deaf, and she was meant to be watching the little kid at the start, and that's why he died? Somebody help me out on this. I've only ever seen it reviewed on YouTube channels. I've not actually watched it myself. Chaotic? Isn't one of the children deaf?
She uses hearing aids.
Ah, right, okay. But that means they all know sign language, right? That would explain it.
Yes, they do all know sign language, and it actually does come into play later in the movie. It's not just, oh, she just happens to use them. No, it comes into play, which is another very, very good thing. They take advantage of everything they have, and I wanted to actually build off of what Midori was saying before Illya had come in that talking about using what was it exactly you said, Midori? It was something about using shit.
Using shit, that would be a very different movie.
I think it probably would have been, yes.
That is the porn version.
Oh, wow!
Did you expect any better?
By Michael
Wow.
Bay.
It's just exploding turds.
I'm trying to remember.
It's fun. I think I was just going to go in the direction of sitting there and saying how, that they... one thing that I've always heard in terms of writing is that by using constraints, it actually can help to make your writing better, because rather than just leaving everything open and you can't make any decisions, by putting constraints on yourself, it really helps to build your story out. And I was just going to make a comparison to that, in that they've made a specific constraint, and then they went, now how does this affect the story?
Yeah, I definitely agree that the angle of the main characters, I mean, they're all main characters, but the girl especially, having this disability and having to work the plot around it made it so much more interesting than it would have been if they just went, grr, arg, monsters that hear you and kill you, blah. Like, they had to be really smart about planning each plot beat around, okay, how is her disability going to affect the story, and how can we make her the hero of this story, specifically because she has this issue that would otherwise be a problem.
I mean, that's the mark of good writing, isn't it? To make everything logically bound together rather than relying on tired old cliches. I mean, we as members of the pony fandom, we know this. One of the things that made me fall in love with MLP in the first place was the fact that it didn't stick to cliches. So I know that's a bit of a tangent, but, Stan in the show that brought us all together. Right, if nobody's got anything else to say about A Quiet Place, I shall move down the list. Illya, you actually are alphabetically the next person, so would you like to say your favourite horror movie?
Well, there is actually only one horror movie that scared me in my entire life. It's maybe a bit of a cliche, but it was The Exorcist.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think it was because up until that time, horror movies had been about either... Well, there wasn't a lot of slasher stuff, really yet. And most of the horror movies were about monsters that were not particularly realistic. I mean, vampires and Frankenstein and escaped mummies and things. But in The Exorcist, they actually tried to take you into a place that we had already been taught all about as churchgoers and people who were exposed to things which were considered to be real world canon, all of the things in the Bible. And it pulled all of those things out and spat them out at you on the screen in a very, very scary, depressing way. It frightened the crap out of me, I must admit. And the special effects were quite good for the time, too. It was about 1974 or 73, somewhere in there. So it was a quite good movie that scared the living daylights out of me.
So for the benefit of listeners who've not watched The Exorcist, because it is sort of a rite of passage to watch that one, what is the plot about, just in basic premise terms?
Well, it's been quite a number of years since I've seen it, but basically a girl begins to act funny, and she acts funnier and funnier until the point where her actions become supernaturally strange. And so her mother gets very concerned, calls in an exorcist to come and exorcise the demon out of the little girl. And it's most of the movie is about that, about the exorcism ritual and what goes on, and the devil fighting with the priest who's come to exorcise the demon. And it's very, very powerful stuff.
So who else has seen The Exorcist? Because I'm going to admit straight up that I've never actually watched it. I've seen it appear on so many top 10 horror movie lists, and I've seen chunks of it in analytical videos because I watch way too much of The Take, aka Screen Prism. But I've never watched it myself. So who here has seen The Exorcist all the way through? Midori?
I have seen The Exorcist, and I gotta say, when I actually first saw The Exorcist, it wasn't early on in my life or anything. It didn't as strongly affect me as it probably could have, especially if it had been back at the time when it first came out and everything. So I believe that, like, a lot of my modern experiences partially dampened the horror element of it, but it was still a very powerful movie, especially, well, it was just extremely interesting to see how many horror movies and as well as parodies and everything constantly referenced everything that goes on in that movie, and it was just really fascinating to see it all play out and see everything that everybody always talked about from that movie to experience it. It was quite the experience, I will say.
I think it's one of those things that because it's been parodied so many times, it can often feel like you've watched it even if you haven't, because you know the key bits of it.
Yes, I would say that that is a very good analogy of the situation.
Well, I will say that part of it was in the transformation of Linda Blair. I mean, she really did come off as a very innocent, wonderful young lady before she turned into what was essentially a demon and started spouting vomit and terrible curses that you would not have heard in a movie before that. Like, your mother sucks cocks in hell. You would not have found a young child saying those words in any movie prior to that, or even anything close to it. And they did a lot of other things too, like it was a very, in the room where the child was being exorcised, it was a very cold environment, and they turned down the temperature in the theaters so that you felt that cold that was coming off the screen. It was really very effective. And then Mike Oldfield's wonderful music that was it was in a strange time signature, so that it threw you off when you were listening to it. And there were so many things about it that were atmospheric like that just took you right down into a place that movies, quite frankly, had never taken anyone before.
Silver, I saw you flashing for a second there. Do you have something to add?
Just commenting on the legacy of this movie, because you're right, it has been parodied so many times. There's the vomit scene, there's where the girl's head spins a full 180. I mean, Dinosaurs, the old ABC sitcom from Jim Henson, they parodied that. And you know you've made an impact when a show aimed at families is citing The Exorcist.
Yeah.
So that's the oddest tribute to its legacy. Though I will say that, well, I understand at the time hearing that language from a child was likely very shocking. These days, you just have to go onto Xbox Live to hear that.
Oh, God. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, in actual media now, it's still quite hard to get that kind of thing past censors, which is a whole other level of ironic in 2019. Does anybody else seen The Exorcist or have opinions on The Exorcist? Because it is one of those iconic movies that, in some ways, is almost more notorious for the boundaries it pushed and its legacy than for the movie itself. Because, as I recall, and again, I only know this through second-hand analysis, it's not a full-on huge action movie. It's a very slow-paced, methodical, quiet movie that is more about a priest's restoration of faith rather than quick look at all the pea soup we're making this child vomit out.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. I mean, that was part of the atmosphere, was that being taken to the place in the priest's soul where he was during the exorcism. America, and I suppose a lot of the world, is steeped heavily in religious tradition back in those days, not as much now. And so it all looked like something that could actually happen tomorrow and to the neighbor next door. You know, it didn't seem like spooky monsters that you'll never see. It seemed like spooky monsters that live inside you. It was quite frightening. It was quite novel then.
I know that a lot of American media isn't as focused on religion now, or at least a lot of it that reaches UK shores isn't. But I'm trying to think. Not the happening. There's a series of films, the Annabelle series. I can't remember what the actual film it came off of was called. Conjuring. The Conjuring. The Conjuring series, I watched that one recently and I was genuinely surprised at how much it is rooted in religion and not parodying or subverting, but literally in the power of religion and the power of Jesus saves the day at the end, which I had not come across in a modern film that was not a literal church-based film, a good movies bankroll type thing. And I was genuinely surprised about that. And I wonder if The Exorcist and its legacy is one of the reasons that we don't see that as much anymore. We don't see religion winning out because it's very hard to compete with a classic like that.
Well, there were quite a number of them that came out around the time of The Exorcist. Beyond the Door, Damien, Omen, and there was a slew of that sort of thing in the wake of The Exorcist, but it was immediately in the wake of it. Perhaps it saturated the market so heavily that no one wanted to do anything like that again.
Hello?
From what I know, The Exorcist is actually based on something that happened back in like the 1940s, where there was a girl that was going through things and they thought it was a demonic possession at the time, and there was actually like exorcists brought in and stuff, and that's where they got the idea for the movie, was the claims that came from that experience.
Yeah, it was based on a true story, actually, but, loosely based.
I swear it was based on a book, wasn't it?
Nope, it's on a true story.
Hang on, I'm going on the wiki because I swear it was based on a book, or maybe the book was based on this true story.
Well, yeah, there was probably a book first, but the incident in the book and the movie, I think, was based on a true story.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. I've just very quickly Googled that one. The Exorcist is a 1971 horror novel by American writer William Peter Blatty. That's a great name. The novel was inspired by a 1949 case of demonic possession and the exorcism that Blatty heard about when he was a student in the class of a 1950 at Georgetown University. So yeah, both. It was based on a book and the book was based on a real thing. Now, I wouldn't have called that. I've got to say, I would not have called that. Because I always assumed that it was... The Exorcist was like almost a rebellion and retaliation against the free love movement and the women's liberation and all these things that seem to be pulling people away from religion at the time. Somebody tapped their mic then and I missed who it was. Hollow.
Annie's also based on a true story.
Annie?
Annabelle, sorry.
Oh, Annabelle. Yes, I knew about Annabelle because the real doll is still existing. Look, it's a Raggedy Ann doll, isn't it?
Yep.
I'd like to say one more thing about The Exorcist, if I
Go
may. It was out, like you say, the book was in 71, the movie was in about 73 or 74. And it's hard for people today to really understand the isolation that existed in society before the internet. If there was some case of demonic possession today, it would immediately be followed by 1,000 YouTube videos and news articles and things that you'd find online debunked easily. But in those days, you could have someone claim some demonic possession. You might see a newspaper article about it. There wouldn't be anybody walking around with a television camera in their pocket to film the thing. All you had was word of mouth, and a lot of things were believed very fully based on what people said, because there just wasn't any other way of recording it and talking about it. So it was a darker time in a lot of ways, and people were quick to believe things they would have a little bit of skepticism about today.
I'd almost say that isolation still carried on into like the 90s and like the Blair Witch Project and all the panic and stuff that happened over that one, because people were actually thinking that the actors actually died and that it was an actual documentary and stuff. So I do think it carried on for a bit after that too.
Yeah, I remember that. I was only just starting to pay attention to popular media in like 1999 when Blair Witch came out, and I can remember the hype around that one and how it just swamped the nascent internet with questions about whether or not it was real. I mean, sadly, that's how we got movies like Paranormal Activity and its 1,000,000,001 sequels, but yeah.
Well, Blair Witch Project was on that perfect cusp between where the internet has opened up enough where people are able to share things, but right before everyone had a high-quality video camera in their pocket all the time. So it allowed the quick spread of the ideas, but no additional visual material. So I think that would be perfectly ripe time for something like that to be well believed, which was why it did so well at the box office.
Yeah, and I've got to say, though, I think in retrospect, The Exorcist, just in my opinion, has held up more than the Blair Witch Project, because the bits I've seen of The Exorcist are still entertaining and still very full of tension, whereas the Blair Witch Project, less so over time. That's just my personal opinion. Feel free to disagree with me.
Oh, for sure.
Although, you agree. Yay!
Yeah. It's more fun to look at the Blair Witch Project now as like a murder story instead of a paranormal story.
Yeah. Like I said, the Paranormal Activity series has kind of spoiled a lot of found footage movies. And suddenly the silence, because apparently the Blair Witch came for everybody.
I'm just thinking of the Blair Witch was the start of shaky cam. Everybody wants to emulate that scene where they're running, scared and terrified, and you feel like, oh, I'm gonna hurl.
God, I hate shaky cam.
That spoiled the first Hunger Games movie.
Yeah. We just rewatched that series, and the shaky cam is bad in that one.
They improved it a lot in the sequels, but I get that it was meant to be that it was not glorifying violence of children and teenagers, but they could have done that without making me feel sick from motion sickness.
Not glorifying it until the media got a hold of it, at least.
Yeah, that was the irony of that particular film series. It was all about not glorifying the violence of children on children, and then they made a film where it was glorifying the violence of children on children.
Yep.
I don't think the general public who lapped up that film series really get quite the level of irony of that, though. Wow, that sounded really, really patronizing of me. I may cut that out of the podcast. No, I won't.
Don't, it's right.
Yeah, that's you should say it, and it's true.
Also, that implies I cut out anything that makes me look bad in these podcasts.
Yeah, honestly. You cut out things? Never. Well, no, because now you've made a whole series out of it.
Yeah! Right, moving on from that. Anybody else want to talk about podcast or Blair Witch and save me from myself? No, nobody's fallen on that sword. Thanks, guys.
I'm pretty sure everyone's dead.
Sorry, I'm drawing.
I saw the Blair Witch, and I did like that final scene of where the guy's just standing in the corner and you see it for boom. But for the most part, it's wandering around and shaky cam. You're like, is something going to happen? Although I guess that's the thing. The Blair Witch, it doesn't really build the tension for a while because you're just waiting for something to happen. The Exorcist, you know the danger immediately. I mean, it's in the title.
See, I appreciate movies like The Blair Witch because, yeah, if you're looking for big jump scares or something like that, a lot of the movie is boring. But I think it's very much kind of a scavenger hunt kind of horror where you get more out of it if you let yourself buy back into the suspense and like you don't actually know what the Blair Witch is by the end. All you know is that the three teenagers go missing, and I don't remember if it confirmed that they had died at the end or not. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but there is definitely still a lot of rewatch value in trying to piece together what you think the actual intended canon is. If it is this supernatural creature, if it was just some crazy person in the woods or their own delirium. I know the sequel plays a lot into that, and I also know the sequel isn't very popular with a lot of people, but I had been watching videos on this recently, ironically, and there was a lot of production meddling that forced it to be more gory and just what people expect from a stereotypical horror movie, the Blair Witch sequel, because audiences didn't receive the first one as well after the initial watching. And it messed with the story because the sequel originally was this slow progression of this group of fans of the movie going out and falling into their own delirium and having this kind of mass hysteria set in. And the point of the movie was you didn't know if the Blair Witch actually existed or if it was just people hyping themselves up. And there were all these clues throughout the movie about what it could possibly be, and there was a lot of interactivity to it. They did the same kind of thing they did with the first movie, where there's a website, and like if you got the clues, you could get on this list of names of people who had figured it out. And I thought that was really interesting. So even if in retrospect the movies aren't that amazing to watch for people who want that kind of stereotypical horror, I still think there's something neat about them.
Chaotic?
Just as you were talking, Mommy, I just kind of randomly thought about how it seems more often nowadays that I don't know if it's a lot of horror movies, but I definitely know a lot of games that I play that are horror based. They tend to start to leave they leave a lot of things out, and or they leave a lot of it to your imagination, and I'm just wondering whether or not that's good horror writing, or if that's just lazy. It's like, oh, they'll fill it in. Like with the Blair Witch right there, if a lot of it's left to your imagination, does that mean it was good story writing, or was it just, I don't know.
Well, Blair Witch didn't really have a plot in the first place, did it? It was not so much written as just a setup to see if it would work, because the directors took these actors out into the woods and then just left them there, and then messed with them to see what would happen, which I don't think you can do that more than once. It was very much lightning in a bottle, because any time after that, when you're trying to replicate that kind of thing, would not work, because people would suspect. It's the same reason that reality TV shows only ever work for one season, because thereafter everybody knows the game.
Yeah, a lot of it's like comparing apples to oranges, I think. Like you say, that was a one-off. That might not work if it was tried again, because it was a very special setup. There's something like The Exorcist had a really good actress, Linda Blair, and several other good supporting actors in it. It had a good script. It had a huge sound set and special effects, so it's nothing at all like it. One thing I wanted to ask you guys, are you seeing your horror movies in the theater or on your screens at home?
You mean the choices that we're bringing to the table, or like the Exorcist?
I suppose any of it. You certainly didn't see The Exorcist at the theater. I think that's one of my points.
Well, it did get reissued into theatres a couple of years ago, and it tends to get played at a lot of local theatres on Halloween.
Oh, wow, didn't know that.
I've only seen a handful of horror movies in the theater. Most of them are indeed at home. I think there's always a factor there. The combined tension of a movie theater audience has an effect that watching at home does not replicate. And so something that might seem not so freaky if you're watching it on your home TV might be utterly terrifying in a movie theater, because you absorb the tension from the people around you.
Well, it's not just that, but you can't go to the kitchen and get a sandwich or turn down the volume or take a bathroom break, or you're just stuck there with this thing in your face.
Yep. I told this story in a previous podcast that I rarely go to theatres or rarely go to the cinema. But when I was in my first year of university, I was part of film club, and we used to go every Saturday and watch a film reel that had just come off the local cinema and was being played in our lecture theatre. And I mistakenly went to the first one not knowing what the film was, and it was Resident Evil. And I very much had that moment of, oh God, I can't get out, I can't leave, I'm in the middle of a row, all these people. And it made it scarier, that lack of being able to pause or anything like that, to the point where I don't go and watch horror movies at cinemas anymore. I do watch them at home, where I can have the lights on.
Indeed.
When you realize you're such an introvert that movie theaters just annoy the shit out of you, and it's scarier at home.
Plus, they're expensive! I am not paying £15+ to go and watch a film that might be crap.
Yeah, that's what I did last night.
And you can't forget, you gotta get the popcorn, and you gotta get the drinks, and you gotta get the candy. You gotta go if you go, you're going for the whole experience.
Just a little thing based on that, the idea of candy and popcorn. In America, is it a thing where they check your bag to see if you're taking in sweets and things to the cinema?
Sometimes.
Not anymore.
I haven't ever had that experience, no.
I haven't had that happen.
Because they did check my bag when I went to see Avengers Endgame. Because the Avengers and Marvel movies are one of the only times I will go to the cinema now. And they checked my bloody bag!
Could just be that you look a lot more guilty than we do. We're clean cut, nice looking people, and
It's just attack Scribbler Day, huh?
Rude, damn. Damn.
Illya, I thought we were friends!
You made me cough.
You served you right!
Did you go see that where you are or over here?
Won't do that again.
But yeah, Endgame took away my Pepsi Max can that was in my bag and I wasn't happy. They
I
took my
imagine
Pepsi
that-
Max!
Oh, well,
I mean, yeah. Oh, but
Chaotic Quicksilver.
Fight.
Fuck. I
Well,
was
you can
gonna
do
say
that too if you want, but...
It's not where I was going with that. Okay, never mind. I'm done.
Wow, that was quick fuck.
Wow.
The title card for this is going to be like a saucy, chaotic silver quill yaoi dojin.
Oh my god, no!
Yep. It's a thing now.
Oh no.
I don't know. If you're going to pair us off, I call dibs with Illya.
Oh,
We all do, Silver. Get in
We-
line.
You'll
Like-
get a cold if you pair with me.
my favourite moment in any podcast will always ever be Illya randomly coming into the chat and Mammy just going, for a few seconds there, I was straight.
I mean, that's true anytime he's in call.
But yeah, sorry. I couldn't resist the jokes. Go on,
Well-
Silver.
Well, Scribbler, you just gave away why they searched your bag. You had a Pepsi product, and I bet Coca-Cola had a stranglehold on the movie theater. There you go, mystery solved.
Blah. Coke is horrible. I don't know what it's like in the US, but here it's so damn salty.
Well, despite the fact that they charge an arm and leg to see the theater, see the production, they do make almost all of their money on concessions. So they have to try to get that money as best. That's why popcorn, which costs a nickel, they charge you $10 for it. That's how they make their money.
Well, see, my theater is smart. It serves booze.
Well, there is a pub just across from the cinema where I am.
My favorite
Actually,
theater I
there's
have
three pubs across the
actually.
cinema. Sorry, Chaotic.
You're fine. My favorite movie theater I go to actually is a full sit-in experience. You can get food, you can get your dinner, you can get your booze, you can get everything. It's great.
Really?
Yep.
That's a thing?
That's what
It's-
we've got.
Awesome.
I love that
Wow.
concept.
That does not exist over here. Holy shit. Wish you can get
But I
some
mean-
like stale popcorn and maybe a bag of minstrels.
Well, I mean, like I said, you go for the experience. Go for the experience, man.
With your feet sticking to the floor and going, oh, I hope that was still Coke.
I used to work in a movie theater, so this is just bringing back the memories of working there for 3 years.
Go on, what was the worst thing you ever found in the movie theatre?
Oh, please don't ask
Nope,
me that.
nope, now it's out there. Go on, what was it?
There was a used condom sticking to one of the seats.
I could guess that was what you were going to say.
Ew.
Very ew.
We had to peel it off.
Oh, no.
Aw.
We couldn't leave it there.
Obviously, but even so. Ah!
I'm
With
just
your
trying to figure out
Oh!
what. Oh
Why?
no.
That was
No.
far worse than anything I've said.
It wasn't half
Please,
as
no.
bad as literally every kids movie where every row is just filled with popcorn and soda.
Thought you were gonna say condoms.
Oh, God!
I would hope
No,
not.
no, please God, no.
We're all My Little Pony fans. Adults go to those movies too.
Yeah, but
it-
you'd hope they're not shaying off in the seats.
Who do you
Well,
maybe that just makes it worse.
let me
It's when they
reiterate.
took it all home with them.
We're all My Little Pony fans. Have
Ugh.
met Wooten.
I'm actually playing a game with him later, so yeah, I know him quite well.
We should probably get back on track, because this has gone to a really weird place.
Yes, can we get back on track, Magnetic?
Yeah, hello. What's your
The
favourite
magnetic
horror
track.
movie?
Okay, so I had to choose between The Ritual and Us because I liked both of those so much. I ended up going with Us because when I watched it in the theaters, I ended up with a completely different message than everyone else, and there's so many details and just interesting little tidbits that you notice after rewatching it. It was just really fun.
So, again, for the benefit of those listening, especially because Us is quite a recent film, it's this year, isn't it?
Last year, let me look. Oh, yep, it was this year. Okay, so the plot is basically this family is going on vacation to the mother's old, beach area, and there's a lot of memories and stuff there. And we find out that there was a traumatic experience where when she left her parents when she was little at the circus, she wandered into this clown house or something, and something in there happened. And she saw a doppelganger of herself. And after that, she didn't speak for a long time. Like, they took her to therapy and all this stuff, and she was traumatized. So it jumps forward to the adults. And when they're going back to this area, she's starting to feel like something's wrong, something's going to happen. This is bad. I don't know what, but it's bad. And it turns out that when they get back to their little rental house, 4 masked assailants are trying to break in and murder them all. But once they get in, they realize that all 4 of them are the 4 of them from the family. So their doppelganger selves are breaking into the house and wanting to probably murder them.
Now, this is by Jordan Peele, isn't it? The director and writer of Get Out.
Yes.
So it is presumably also has a political undertone, like Get Out.
Yes, it's so good. There's a lot of different ways to look at it. The main one people have been talking about is like talking about poverty and like the difference between being raised with privilege and not raised with it and stuff like that.
Silver?
Well, I did get to see this movie in theaters as well, and in truth, while there was, how do I describe this? There's this very, very upper class family as neighbors, and they're always trying to one up everyone around them. And so I could kind of see where people take political or socio commentary from that, but mostly I saw just horror across it affected everyone. It didn't matter. This was happening to everyone in the country at the same time.
The allegory was actually from the, I don't remember what they called it, the tethers. The tethers are the downtrodden and the poverty-stricken, and then everybody upside is the one with the privilege and like the better upbringing and whatnot.
I've got to ask, because I know this movie only by watching it on the channel Dead Meat with the kill count.
Same.
I
love that channel.
It is a great channel. I've just been mainlining that while working recently. But I've got to ask the question because I didn't quite understand it from that video. The Hands Across America. What was that in real life, and how does it apply to this film? Because I didn't really get it.
It was like a charity thing in real life, and it was just like an awareness type of thing. And then in the movie, it's important because the main character's seen that when she was little, and that's something she saw before this whole trauma happened, so she really clung on to it. And one of the twists is that the little girl is not actually the little girl from the beginning of the movie, because the doppelganger switches places with her in that clown house. So the one that's stuck underground now, one of the few things she remembers is the Hands Across America thing. So she clings onto that and makes it into when we go murder everyone, this is how we're going to do it.
So I'm just sort of stuck on the real life thing, because Hands Across America sounds like the name of a charity, but I keep seeing images of people literally holding hands. Or is this an actual thing they tried to do? Well, they tried to make a chain of hands literally across America. How did that even work?
It didn't. Didn't. They attempted to do this Hands Across America thing for this whole charity thing, but it did not work at all. I remember even the recent Invader Zim did a parody of it with Hands Across the World.
Oh, right.
I think that there were probably isolated places where people held hands, but wasn't very effective.
I just looked it up. It says Hands Across America was a public event on Sunday, May 25th, 1986, in which approximately 6.5 million people held hands for 15 minutes in an attempt to form a continuous human chain across the congruous United States. Many participants donated $10 to reserve their place in line.
Oh, right.
I didn't believe that.
So it's just such an odd concept in the context of 2019. Maybe it made more sense in the 80s.
But again, maybe that speaks to, at the time, we didn't have the internet connectivity. It's again this idea of trying to reach beyond your immediate social circle. In this case, I think they tried it quite literally. I'm actually kind of sorry it didn't work out. That would have been a spectacular image for history.
Yeah, because, like I said, the imagery associated with it is the only thing I really knew, so I didn't get the context, probably because it didn't work.
What was the charity?
I don't know. What was the charity? Hollow, if you've got this up on the screen, what was it a charity for?
Hang on, I'm on the wiki.
It's kind of sad that the wiki doesn't say it at the very start. Apparently it was that successful.
It just says the event raised about $15 million for charities after operating costs, and it's not saying what charities.
Immediately suspicious.
Larry's pocket.
That's so that's the best. That's the best charity is the one straight into my pocket.
Hands Across America raised $34 million. According to the New York Times, only about $15 million was distributed after deducting operation costs.
Wow, that's like pocket change today.
Well-
I say to today's billionaires, not to us. We're all fucking poor. Silver?
I did just a quick search and sponsored by USA for Africa.
Oh, that was still going on. That was the We Are the World song. Yeah.
Yeah, and on the heels of Live Aid. That would make sense.
I saw Us, and I'm trying to remember because I saw Us with a friend of mine, and the thing is, I knew the context before I watched it, so unfortunately, it was kind of like, I was trying to see anything else that I could. I guess I don't know, but I think I lost it. Shit, never mind.
Don't worry.
If I remember, I'll come back to it.
You've had a lot of very, very strenuous working environment recently and a lot of long hours. I'm just impressed that you're here, to be honest, hon.
Why it's useful to have an app.
And Hollow, I am so putting that in this particular chat. So just stand by, everybody. Silver, you need to look at that link I've just posted.
Oh my.
I
Yep.
don't know if I should be proud or ashamed.
Hollow has sketched Shipart.
I'm going to call this Wings Across the Waifu.
Oh!
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wings across Husbando.
Yes.
Okay.
We have chaotic quill art.
Oh.
That didn't take long.
It really didn't. Wow. Hollow.
I just scribbled it, I had to.
Yeah, I will. In fact, I've just punched the CD player next to me. Apparently, I'm going to post this in the description of the podcast when it goes out.
Oh no.
I might put this at the end of one of my videos.
Yeah.
Oh god, it was a 2-second scribble.
Oh no.
You don't get to do those around here. They'll use it for anything.
Yep.
Mammy still won't let me post that one with the taco meat.
It is forbidden.
What?
Nothing.
What?
Nothing.
You know what?
Nope.
I can share it here.
Yes.
You do not
so,
have permission
please.
to do that.
She has my permission, and therefore I supersede you. I am.
False.
She's in your server anyway, so
Scribbler. You stand artist rights.
like hold on.
Yeah, I stand my curiosity more. What is this about meat?
Let me get it.
Yep. Thank you, Midi.
Is that one-off joke with Goody?
I call it taco slut.
Ugh.
I am even more intrigued. Is this more than the art we've just posted?
This is the last thing that this call needs. We all have shit to do.
There it is.
Right, let's look at the art.
I'm moderating. No, get back on track.
I remember this.
Fucking hell.
When he was making taco meat and I started talking about cockroaches and he's like, well, can't eat this, and you were just like, bitch, give it.
Started talking about cock and he was like, well, can't eat this.
No,
that brings
cockroach.
us back to us. They ate live rabbits, live raw rabbits.
Hollow with the segue.
Wow.
That
So
was a thing. That happened in the movie.
That was a right. Hollow just took the wheel of the chat and turned a hard left from the passenger seat way back
Hollow
onto
is
the road.
moderator now.
Everybody's better moderator than me. Right, okay.
My chat now.
So wait, Hollow pulled a Derek Zoolander? I
Pretty
turned left.
Yeah, we probably should get back to talking about the actual movie, because Mammy's right. We're on the third person, and we were already an hour in. Right, anybody else want to talk about Us? Because it is a bloody good film. Zilda?
Yes, I think it was actually at its most frightening when the doppelganger family, you just see them standing out there in this perfect line, fixed, very inhuman actions. And I think that was really the greatest tension. Though I got to give it to the main actress, I forget her name, but when she talked with that rasp.
I forget her name too, but she was in Black Panther, wasn't she?
Yes, the general.
Was it the general? I thought it was the king's love interest.
Oh, maybe I'm going bonkers.
Hang on. I will check the wiki. I'm going on the wiki.
You're just saying the general because she was my favorite in Black Panther.
It's Lupita Nyong'o. And yeah, it was the love interest, yes.
Oh, okay, my bad. But the way she could talk with that rasp, I don't know how she accomplished that, but that had to hurt.
She was amazingly good, but she seems to be like a really, really good actress in everything that she does. I didn't realize, I brought the wiki, I didn't realize she was in 12 Years a Slave. I watched that movie, I don't remember seeing her in that. Wow. Holy shit, no, she's the same age as me! Crap! She's so much more accomplished than I am at this point in life.
Debatable.
No, I voice horses on the internet and make dick jokes in podcasts. She is an accomplished actress creating iconic imagery in horror. I think she wins.
You're accomplished in Friends.
True.
Has she gotten to make a dick joke in a movie? I don't think so.
Maybe that was a deleted scene in Black Panther?
I'm not going there.
And yet the entire audience just tried to think of one.
Oh, dear God.
I would challenge you to put it in the comments, but that will get me thrown off YouTube. So please don't make dick jokes in the comments.
And thus, in came the flood.
Which in itself is a dick joke.
What if they made Richard jokes?
Ah.
The context as to why, because it's literally Richard shortened to Rich, and then just the R replaced, and then it's, yeah. I don't... Some kind of, like, British upper-class naming scheme shit or something. I actually looked it up at some point, and I vaguely remember. It's the same reason why Bill is short for William.
Shit happens to words.
That's...
Illya's life wisdom. Shit happens to words.
See, I've just looked up the actual explanation, but now I don't want to give it because I just want that to be it.
Best explanation.
Yeah, best explanation. Right, if we have finished talking about Us, have we finished talking about Us?
I can't remember the thing I was going to originally say, so yeah, I'm done.
I didn't really have a lot to say about Ush. I felt like the twist was a little bit odd, but like the fact that it was some sort of political message and everything, like I really didn't have a lot to say about it, even after like everything. Like I got nothing.
Actually, Midori, as you said that, it reminded me what I wanted to say.
Yay!
So the twist, actually, there is a very big purpose to that twist. The reason being is that I think it's ultimately sitting there trying to say, you know how the idea, I guess we were saying, is kind of like the representation of like kind of the rich versus the poor, the impoverished versus the haves, I guess. It's showing it's kind of almost trying to sit there and say, it's like those who have, or the rich, or however you want to put it, are not any different than those who are impoverished, and it's being shown by the twist, because it's like we didn't know that her upbringing or where she came from originally. So it's literally just kind of trying to prove the point of we are all, in a sense, the same in that way.
It's kind of another like nature versus nurture thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I hadn't thought about it that way. That's very clever. I like the fact it doesn't hit it over your head with it.
It's so fun and detailed.
I shall have to actually go and watch this film now rather than just watching Dead Meat. Right, moving on then. Mammy, what is your favourite horror movie?
I couldn't pick. So I have the one I think is my most favorite, and then I have a couple of like quick recommendations just because they're amazing. So my favorite horror movie is controversial.
Ooh.
It's the second Resident Evil movie.
Ooh!
Which you might not think because I actually like the Resident Evil games, but I just think it's like such a classic feeling horror movie. Like, yeah, it's not a good Resident Evil movie, but if you stop giving a shit about that and you just watch it as a movie, like, it has suspense, it has moments of humor where it's just so over the top that you're like, this is so bad it's good. It has drama, and you don't even really have to watch the first movie to enjoy watching it. And I think that's something really special about a sequel, is where it's almost better than the first. So there's just so much about it that I like. One scene that sticks out in particular is where they're in the school. And I mean, a school setting for any horror movie is like, you can't mess that up. There's just this really well-placed shot where you're looking through a camera as someone's being eaten alive. And like, that's just stuck with me. Like, that is the kind of moment that I try to capture in my horror because it's so good. So like, yeah, it's not a great Resident Evil movie, but I honestly think it's my favorite horror movie.
So, again, for the benefit of those listening who've never either played a game, because I know this movie more closely resembles the game, or watched the movie itself, what is the premise of this?
So the premise of the movie is basically just, it's a video game movie. It's based on the popular horror franchise Resident Evil, obviously, which really kind of kicked off survival horror. It's from back in the 90s with, like, you know, Silent Hill, like early Silent Hill and Fatal Frame, like just that genre of survival horror. Like, it pioneered that whole situation. And then in the early 2000s, they decided that would make a great movie. Except that they didn't use any of the original characters, and they only loosely used the original plot and really focused on, like, action scenes and blood and gore and guts, because of course they did, which is not true to the original series at all, but whatever, this isn't a tangent. So the second Resident Evil movie focuses on the main character for the movie series, Alice, waking up in this facility and not remembering how she got there. And as she makes her way out, oh God, it's been a long time since I've seen the movie. She goes through all of these traps that mimic the original movie's plot, where it's just different story beats that she has to go through. Like, there's a scene with a hallway, and there's a scene with zombie dogs, because it's a zombie movie, in case anyone has never heard of Resident Evil. They're all Dobermans. They're all rotted and nasty. Yeah. Ugh.
But still, Doberman, best dog. Not biased at all.
So she's going through the hallway and she kind of relives the first movie, which is part of why you don't really have to watch the first movie to get it, is they sort of recap it in a really subtle, unique way. And at the end, I don't remember if they cut away from that scene or if that was the very last scene, but they kind of explain that they've been cloning her, and she gets out into the city and chaos has just broken out. So it takes place in Raccoon City, which is near the original location. And the zombies from the first movie have infected the entire city. Like, the virus that created them got out into the air and it's airborne. So everyone's infected. It's kind of a Walking Dead deal for anyone who's not familiar with Resident Evil itself. It's pretty much the same concept where you're already infected. And if you die, like, you can come back, or if you get bitten, you turn faster, that kind of thing. And the idea is her and a ragtag group of characters, some of them from the games and some of them not, have to get out of the city that has been walled in before they nuke the place. And they don't only have to get themselves out. In order to get out, they have to go to the school, the elementary school, in the middle of the city and get this dude's daughter, because he works for the corporation that created the virus. And if they want to leave, they have to have her with them.
It has been a very long time since I watched this film. It was another one that I got through student cinema. So why is this one your favorite? I mean, I remember it as being quite similar in tone to the first movie, so why do you prefer this one to the first one if they were, in my dim and distant memory, quite similar in tone?
The first one is boring.
Oh!
That's really it.
Right to cut to the chase there.
The first one is a lot of, this is how we're doing Resident Evil without doing Resident Evil, and here's the character, and here's her backstory, and I don't give a shit. I really don't. If it's not the characters that are from the game, whatever, I'm already not really going to care about her. So I wish they had focused a bit more on just the suspense of the horror instead of trying to explore her personal drama. And then I didn't think there was a very compelling villain among any of the ones that they chose. The kills were memorable, but it was very much kind of like showy gore for me. Whereas the second one, like, there is a lot more of that suspense, and when it goes action, like, the action is so... She drives a motorcycle through a church, like, blasts it through a window, and it runs over one of the monsters that's attacking the main group, and it's just, like, such a sticks-in-your-memory moment. Like, the first movie didn't have any of that for me, but the second movie is, like, full of them.
Alright then, so let's open this out to everybody in chat. Just sort of tapping your lips tapping your lips, that sounds so weird, to get my attention. Midi, you'd like to speak first about this movie?
Oh yeah, like I have like lots of different experiences with everything related to Resident Evil, but the scene that Mammy is actually talking about, the scene with the motorcycle in the church, I really didn't like a certain aspect of that scene, and that was, here are these monsters. They're called lickers, and the one licker that was in the first movie was such a big problem for the characters to deal with. He was such a big deal, and here we have like multiple lickers, and she just rides in on a motorcycle and kills them all in a single scene, and they don't appear anymore in the movie. And I felt like the entire reason for that scene was to show just how much more badass she is as compared to the first movie, and all it honestly did was undermine the severity that was the lickers themselves for me.
Ooh, controversial opinion. Mammy, do you have a comeback for that?
I actually kind of love that it does sort of feel like it's directly referencing the first movie, where it's like, oh, here's the main antagonist of the first one. You know, in the first movie, they're dealing with one licker that gets out and starts mutating. So that licker actually becomes stronger over the course of the movie because it's picking up just more virus as it consumes like zombies and people and shit. But in the second movie, like, you get to the scene and you get to the part with the lickers, because in the second game, which the movie is based off of, like, lickers are kind of a primary enemy for one of the characters. And like, I think that was actually the game where they were introduced too. So this is the movie based on the game where lickers were introduced. And I could be totally floating that. I used to be really like an expert on Resident Evil, but it's been a while since I've been able to binge it. But they had to have a licker scene because that's just iconic for that installment of the series. So it was touching on that, but then it doesn't last the entire movie because it would kind of feel like a rehash if it did, you know, like that was the main antagonist of the first one. Why would you go through that again? So then she just busts through the church on a motorcycle and slams into it. And it's like the movie saying, fuck you, we're not doing that. Let's move on.
Hollow, was that you I saw just then?
Nope, I'm drawing. Messed up.
Oh god, right.
New key, here it is.
Ha! Ha! You made fun of me because it was the spacebar for me, but you used control, you artist. I hear you control-Zing.
Silver?
Shush.
Well, I just want to comment that Midori has invoked a classic trope, the inverse ninja law.
What? What is this inverse ninja law?
It applies to more than just ninjas, but think of it this way. A lone ninja in a story, or especially a movie, is the silent and deadly opponent who everyone is struggling to defeat. A team of ninjas is a group that gets easily picked off and busted apart, and if they all attack one hero, that one hero usually beats the living daylights out of them. It's this trope in stories that the more you add of a certain creature, the group somehow becomes less powerful than if it were a lone creature.
I'm thinking of the Alien franchise as soon as you said that. I was like, oh, crumbs, that's right.
All the old karate movies had that trope in them.
I think that's where it found its origin, but it applies to the lickers here. One licker is a terrifying beast that everyone is trying to slay. A group of lickers, you could afford to kill a few off just to show that the horde is still after them, just like in the Alien movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bruce Lee could always defeat 15 people, you know, any setting, but put him up against one strong guy, and you know, it took him a while to do the job. I wanted to add one thing too. It seems like it's possible that to Mommy, the idea that the female character experienced growth between the first and second movies was important to you. It sounded. Am I wrong in that?
Well, not this one. Alice is a perfectly serviceable protag, but she's very cliche. I hate the term Mary Sue, but she really kind of is. Like, she has all these special powers, and they're just not explained, and she's secretly a clone, and she can ride a motorcycle through a church and not get banged up at all, and she's the one who swoops in and saves the day and has all the plot. And what does kind of make me mad about this movie is it has Jill Valentine, who is the female protagonist of the video game series, but she's slated into a secondary role to Alice because Alice has to steal the show because she was written to. So yes, I like that she's not quite the bumbling tag-along that she was in the first movie, but when the better character for character development like that is right next to her and being toned down so that she can shine, it's a little annoying.
That very much feels like self-insert in fanfiction.
Very much.
Do you think you would have enjoyed it more, the first movie, perhaps, if you hadn't played the game?
Maybe. I'm not sure that they did enough to try and flesh out the characters to make up for people who hadn't played the games, or at least had like base knowledge about what it was about. But probably just because you wouldn't be comparing, oh, this isn't that character, oh, that's not how it was in the games. So yeah, that's probably part of it.
Well, I knew nothing about Resident Evil. I didn't even know it was a game when I first had to watch it. So I can say that from a complete and utter layman's perspective, it was a serviceable horror movie. That's probably why I like the first one more than the second one, because I definitely got the feel in the second one that there was a lot of stuff that I was missing. Like, there were lots of in-jokes and references that I just wasn't privy to.
You know, that I don't know if there's a trope for that whole thing of like feeling like a character is almost like a self-insert in a like a
self-insert.
Insert. I have trouble with my S's. Leave me alone.
It's not that. It's just imagining thinking, shit, Alice has never worn a shirt. It's always a muscle top or something.
Oh, but are you complaining?
I mean, to be fair, no.
But anyways, I see that in several different like movies and video games and everything, like franchises, like they introduce a new character, and it always bothers me when they do something like that. I my favorite example, and I'm sorry to anybody that likes this character, is Lana from Hyrule Warriors. It's like she only exists in that game, and she plays such a crucial role in the plot, and she's in love with Link, and she has more weapon types than most of the other characters, and like she gets the Triforce of power like towards the end and everything to take care of it. But like, it's like, who is this fucking pop idol wannabe that is in my Zelda game, and why are you guys trying to make her seem so freaking important?
You can say Starlight Glimmer. It's okay.
Well, in the absence of MP, I will say the line he would say in this moment, and that is, worst pony. Which, you know, I don't actually agree with that. I like Starlight Glimmer, but, you know,
now
have to stand my boyfriend in that one.
I'm just glad when you said Lana, it wasn't from Archer. Like, don't be mean to Lana.
Just on that note, are they making another season of Archer? Because that did not get resolved.
I think so. I
hope
think there's
so, 'cause,
another season.
The original creator says he's not making any more. Like, he had planned to end it there. And I only recently watched that finale and went, no, you cannot leave it there. Oh.
But
There's the true horror, fan rage.
Yeah. I wrote an entire horror fic about that once, about the fans taking over and rewriting canon.
Aprilverse.
To be honest, no, it wasn't Aprilverse, but yeah, Aprilverse is its own version of horror. It's like, what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah.
Back to the actual thing. Okay. I'm sorry, I had a complete and utter brain fart for a second there. I forgot what film we were talking about.
Resident Evil 2.
I know. I'm sorry, I forgot. Silver?
Well, I didn't see the second movie. I've seen other entries in the Resident Evil series. And this is kind of funny. It's one of those movies that straddles the genres. Is it an action movie with horror elements, or a horror movie with a lot of action elements?
I don't feel qualified to answer that, so I'll open it up to everybody else.
I feel like it's a action movie with horror elements.
I think it's kind of an even mix of both, honestly.
Chaotic?
I mean, I've not seen any of the films, but I played a few of the games, and I think it has the same problem that any horror game has. The first entry is a horror game with action elements. Every game that comes after is action with horror.
Disagree.
Ooh, why disagree?
I mean, you've seen the movie, so you'll know better than me in regards to the movie we're talking about, but...
Well, in the games, the first one has you, like, blowing up a plant with fire and bazookaing a tyrant, which is the end boss at the very end. Like, it's basically a super zombie. Like, you end the game exploding a mansion, so it is very action. There's a lot of puzzle solving and mind fuckery to it, but I would argue the sequels not having that element of suspense to them as well, especially the second one, which this one is based off of, because the second one is like beloved. I mean, if this movie series was going to make a good Resident Evil movie, it would be pretty hard to mess up doing one based on the second game.
Fair enough, I guess. I think the only one I played was 4, and then I watched them play 7. So.
Yeah. Okay, no. I'm thinking original series. 4 onwards definitely has the problem where it stops being nearly the same flavor that the original ones were. So I take it all back. You're totally valid. Yeah, it has that problem where as the series got into the later 2000s, it lost what made it what it was. And whether that's good or bad is your mileage may vary.
It may have started out good with 4. That was actually a very amazing game. But then we got into 5 and I started to like feel a bit odd, like, where's the horror? And then we got into 6 and it's just like, okay, this is stupid now.
Why was it stupid by that point? I've said many times before, not a gamer in any way, shape, or form. So I'm curious.
Number 6 was just... it was all kinds of bad. Nobody that likes Resident Evil liked 6. It branched into too many stories that were all trying to do their own thing, and it just was all kinds of ridiculous stupidity. It was bad. It was really bad. Like I said, there were like 3 different stories, and I think only one of them was trying to be a horror story and failing.
And it just reminds me that I actually still kind of want to pick up the remake of the original Resident Evil, because long time ago, I actually played a little bit of it, but when I was a little kid, I was scared by literally everything, so I played it for 2 minutes, saw the first zombie, and ran away screaming, so...
I feel like I can recommend the remake of Resident Evil 2, and what I've seen of it has been absolutely amazing. It definitely feels like they're trying to go back to the roots with that one.
Cool, I'll check it out then. Thank you.
But it's more fun if you get the Thomas the Tank Engine mod.
No, no.
Everything's more fun with the Thomas the Tank Engine mod. What are you talking about?
I've seen video footage of this, and I've got to admit, I got linked to that blind. What the fuck was I watching?
There is an enemy in the game. I forget what his name is. He's some sort of a tyrant that is programmed to go after and kill STARS members, as well as just generally anybody that is surviving the apocalypse that's going on in Raccoon City, to cover it up. So when he knows you're there, he comes after you and doesn't stop coming after you, and he is literally impossible to kill. You can shoot him in the face to slow him down, but he does not stop coming after you, and people modify him to be like Thomas the Tank Engine and shit coming after you.
Resident Diesel.
Understand, and that made me laugh.
Marvelous.
Beautiful. 10 out of 10.
Does anybody else have anything to say about Resident Evil before we move on?
Yes, now I want to see Thomas the Tank in a Resident Evil movie. This has to happen, please.
I'll bet it'd be quite spectacular, because did you see the original Thomas the Tank Engine movie? Sparkle, sparkle, sparkle.
Heck yeah, sparkle, sparkle, sparkle.
I'm gonna just call for a quick bathroom break, okay? If that's alright with everybody.
God, yes, that's fine.
Yeah, because I have drunk 2 cups of coffee and a can of Coke, and I need to leave very quickly.
Me too.
Okay. Right,
Everybody's going on a bathroom break? Why, hello, delicious sandwich.
Wow. Those two ideas do not mesh.
No.
I already took my bathroom break. I'm gonna enjoy this sandwich.
At least you didn't say lemonade.
Oh, God. And on that note, I'm leaving.
I mean, one of my veggie straws is yellow.
See, my dumbass completely forgot we were doing this podcast. So I woke up at like 10 o'clock, looked in Discord, and was like, oh, fuck, that's today.
I actually woke up for once, so this was nice.
I was going to say, I even forgot that I had... Well, I didn't forget that I had volunteered, but I forgot when it was, and I stayed up real late last night, and I was like, oh, shit. She put in Discord 6 hours before it started, so I went, oh, shit, I should probably try and get a nap in before this starts.
Yeah.
I only remembered since I saw it too last night, so it lined up well.
I kind of want to go and see that. Would you recommend it?
It was fine. The beginning put me off of the whole movie, so I kind of have a colored view of it right now.
Yeah.
I think I heard people talking about the very beginning and how I guess they didn't care for it, because I remember in the first It, I guess there was a thing between one of the girls and her father or something like that, right?
What movie?
It Chapter 2.
Bit Tracker 2?
I
thought that's what you said, like I was trying to confirm. Oh, It Chapter 2.
Yeah, the beginning's like a bunch of like super aggressive homophobic hate crime stuff going on, and I'm like, this hurts. Yep, I can't do this.
Is it seemingly there for any reason, or is it just kind of there? I guess is going to be the big question.
Well, in the original book, the first cycle was like set off by this hate crime, but it wasn't like detailed or anything. It was just a thing that happened. And they skipped it in the first movie, so I'm like, okay, this is fine. They're not going to do it in the second movie. No, they bring out 2 characters, make you fall in love with them, and then murder one, and then you get to see the other one be sad as fuck because his boyfriend just died. But I thought the guy that survived was one of the main kid characters, but I was like, oh wait, no, this is just some random guy they're using to traumatize us. Cool, fuck this.
So it sounds like it's just kind of a setup to make the movie able to be a standalone?
I guess so, I don't know. I was sitting next to the 2 people I'd consider partners at the time, so I'm like, okay, this sucks, I hate it, yep.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
What does a hate crime murder have to do with it coming back?
It's supposed to feed off of any sort of hatred and fear. So they're like, oh, let's do a hate crime. That's a good way to start this fucking movie.
Kind of political there.
I mean, I guess it's topical, so...
It was retaliation for all those people who tried to make the It monster gay.
It was just a lot to come into, not expecting to see it at all.
Who's still out?
I'm back.
Welcome back.
Yeah, it's the scrib.
I was afraid the conversation had started up without me, and it's like, wait.
No, I'm just complaining about It Chapter 2.
Someone wanted to make the It clown gay?
Ooh, that was a meme.
I just remember when Wonder Woman came out and the Alamo Drafthouse had an all-women's viewing. And some people online got really angry and they said, well, when It comes out, are you going to have an all-clown viewing? And the Alamo replied, oh, that's a great idea. We should do that.
I like that idea. I would never go in that room, but it's funny.
I'd like to see it.
Wouldn't that just be the straight pride parade?
Just Illya laughing like that and being like, that's a good idea. I wouldn't go in there, but it sounds funny.
Clowns are scary.
Well, I mean, when Zootopia came out, there was a furry group rented a theater So it was Furtopia, and you just see in the hallway all these fursuit people going. It's like, huh.
Okay, it was really cute though.
So now I want to see an all clown viewing from the hallway.
Aside from the beginning, I liked the movie. It was good. It was hard.
Yeah. Anytime I see an LGBT character in a horror movie, I'm like, I'm not gonna get too attached to you.
No specifics, but one of the main kids is LGBT, but they don't like do anything with it, so
A failsafe for the bury your gays trope.
I mean, they still killed half of them, so
Half of the characters die?
half of the gays die.
Oof.
At least it's only half this time. The Walking Dead.
2 of the 4 survive, but we never see the first one ever again. So really, there's only 1 left out of the 4 in the end.
Now, with 50% less gays.
Surviving. And it just got really quiet because we're all like, oh, was that awkward? Was that, did I say a bad thing?
It was awkward.
I don't know.
No, I'm just starting to make my food.
I'm still drawing.
I think everyone's just brain dead. This is an especially brain foggy cast.
To be completely fair, compared to the last podcast, one of these Babble Scribblers I was in, like people kept coming in to the podcast it seemed like every hour somebody different suddenly popped in, and it kept it going longer and longer, and after a while I'm just like, oof, I'm getting tired. My headphones are starting to hurt my ears. I've been in here for 5 hours.
They can be very long.
I'm not used to so much social interaction.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
People are scary.
I'm about to bust out some wine to try to deal with my throat, and if I drink wine, I'll loosen up a bit.
Oh my god, Illya, we're kin. I was about to get a bottle of wine.
Oh shit, I forgot my medication. I'll be right back.
Just on the same level there.
Really
Cecil?
bad that alcohol reminded you to take your medication.
Oh, alcohol! That's right. I need to take my medication.
Yeah, I think I'll take my medication.
Just imagining the look on your face as you're saying that. You know what? With Mammy next to you, both of you just shoulder to shoulder, grinning at the viewer, both holding your own respective wine bottles, and it just says over you guys in colorful font, medication.
The bottles say wine ?
What did I walk back in on? Do you guys need me to leave again?
We're drunkening up.
Okay.
They're drinking medication.
Yeah, I decided my cold needed a bit of wine to help it.
Your voice has definitely increased in smoothness.
Ah, wonderful.
Why are you laughing, Middy?
I don't know, just the association. There's just I drink wine. Oh yeah, your voice does sound smoother.
You did sound a
Does
bit
to
like
me.
Twilight trying to hit on Big Mac. Your voice has definitely increased in smoothness.
Oh, Big Mac, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say, but I like you.
Was that one supposed to be Twilight or Fluttershy?
Twilishy. The Gestalt being from a spell gone wrong.
You know what? Great. Now I remember the fucking thing with Fluttershy drinking. Damn it.
Well, considering you just said it's a fucking thing with Fluttershy drinking.
I'm jerking
Well.
at the bit to get to Midori's choice, because that one's mine too.
That is
I come
not
back
what I
from
thought
taking
you
my brain
said.
meds and I walk into this.
Jerking at the bit is, I am assuming, a horse riding term, not he is jerking it a bit.
I
Which
meant
is the one
nothing of the sort. You
And that
have
is
a
exactly
dirty
what it
mind.
sounded like for a
That
second there.
is what it sounded like.
Wow.
That's
Go
That's
on.
all in your head. I'm horsing.
I'm in pony fandom. All the horse sex is in my head.
Found it. You guys made me think of that.
I click this link with trepidation. Oh, that one!
Yes, that one.
Are we all okay to carry on with the podcast?
I am.
Yep.
Good. I took the opportunity to put some stuff out for the badgers while I was up. I'm just
That's
now
not
Lead them
That's
back.
not a sentence I hear very often.
Big
I put
head.
something out for the badgers.
I have, like, badgers who come to my garden and expect food.
Feed your local badgers, everyone.
So that's just
Badger,
reminding me
badger,
that there is
badger,
actually...
badger,
Yeah,
badger,
that's
badger.
the one.
Until they badger you for more.
Mushroom.
Well, they badger me for more by coming up to the door and just kind of looking in like, the fuck was this?
You call this a buffet?
Effectively, yeah. Well, they've got bread and a pack of old dates tonight.
You know, now,
The picky things have left the strawberries to go and rot. I'm not happy.
now I just want somebody to have, like, a yard full of badgers as they're, like, panning through it, going, badger, 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 badger. And then at the end of the line of badgers, there's just a random, like, harmless snake amongst the badgers. And they're just like, oh, snake, oh, snake.
We don't need no stinking badgers.
They also need to be rooting through mushrooms. Mushroom.
Yes, lots of mushrooms in the yard as well.
I feel like I took mushrooms.
You have to have heard of badger.
Nope.
The fuck?
What?
Hang on.
What?
Everything paused.
What?
I'm going to find the
Hold
music
up.
video.
Gotta find the video.
Hold up. Hold the phone.
I'm
Stop
mad
the
at myself for
podcast.
derailing.
The original The Weeble.
Yes, the original, and then I'll give you the second one.
The second one.
Oh, yes. So, Mammy, you watched that. The second one came out a few years ago when the UK government, in its infinite wisdom, had sanctioned a badger cull, which was basically small groups of farmers and British people running off into the countryside and killing any badgers they could find.
Why?
Because tuberculosis, apparently. And they were worried that badgers were transmitting TB to cattle, which, was such a negligible amount if it even was. This did not necessitate the clubbing to death of badgers and their cubs coming out of their sets. So, yeah, a lot of people went off and were stopping the badger cull and were just getting in the way, making noise, scaring the badgers off, protecting the sets. And this particular video came out to raise awareness of stopping the badger cull.
So many weird things happen in England. So many.
Well, the thing is, the one that came out for the badger cull has Brian May in it.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Brian May is the lead guitarist out of Queen.
Gotcha.
And there it is.
It was very interesting watching this video and getting its entire history in the background. Just a very quiet scribbler monotonously explaining.
The one that I was describing is the second one I've just published there.
Why did I let you do this? I'm gonna be up at 3 a.m. watching this fucking video going badger,
I
badger,
just
badger,
clicked on
badger.
the second one. Let's see. I have seen the first one. I don't think I've seen the second one.
Mushroom.
Well, the second one has got all the Flash Gordon references.
This crappy computer I do mumble on has no speed whatsoever, so...
Flash. Oh.
It's just quiet as everybody watches the badgers.
Who doesn't like badgers, though? Except for apparently the people who wanted to club them.
I'm just having Flash Gordon flashbacks.
Be
Yep.
the mushroom, stop the coal.
Oh, have you seen the very last bit? Why it's a Flash Gordon thing.
God, I've forgotten how much I love this.
I still follow the Weeble. I enjoy whenever he does a music video for his band.
Be the mushroom.
I think I confused him with Cyric because I was trying to think.
Oh,
I forgot
oh
who
God.
it was.
Yeah, I still don't know how you pronounce it. Syriac, I don't know. But he's the
I
one who
say
does all the
Cyric.
he does all the brainfuck videos, so I just know him as Mindfuck Man.
Oh, I love his stuff.
I showed the kitten video of that, where the kittens keep vomiting each other up and then walking around,
Mhm.
to Quirky Craft and Party Blossom. And all I got back from them was, "Why did you show us this?"
Why would you
Children.
do this to me?
Yeah, basically. I can't look at my cat the same way.
Before we get back on track, I just need to I need to do something real fast. Just a sec.
Okay, and then we will return to what we're meant to be talking about.
Well, true to horror form, now I am terrified.
Hang on, have you seen that? Have you seen Cat City? Mammy, have you seen Cat City by Sirac?
No.
Oh no!
No. God, why did I tell you?
Oh no!
Fuck!
This wasn't me. This was chaotic. There you
I
are.
get Weeble. I got Weeble and him mixed up. I forgot who did the Badgers originally. I thought it was Cyric.
Now Mammy gets to watch Kitty City. I found Sirek through Cows. Have you seen these things, Hollow?
I've seen Badger, I've not seen the second thing, and I'm not going to go see the second thing.
Oh, you've got to watch Kitty City!
No, I think I'm good today.
Aw. Silver, have you seen
But
Kitty City?
is great.
I don't think I have.
Are you brave enough to watch Kitty City?
I'm willing to watch the Pussy Fest.
It is the latest link I've just put in the video. All this will go into the doobly-doo down below, listeners.
So I can go
I
watch
changed
it
my
now, you
answer.
saying?
Yes, it's the latest link I've just put into Mumble.
Going there now.
I changed my answer. This is my favorite horror movie.
You're watching Kitty City!
I am back.
I like the fact it looks like a caterpillar. Sometimes.
Oh my god.
What's going on now?
The drugs are kicking in.
Watching Kitty City.
God damn it, now I have to watch it.
I'm gonna drink more wine before I see this.
This is some Undertale secret lab shit.
Oh, the Kitty City thing, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, he
And these
says
are all his own
dismissively.
cats as well that he filmed to make this.
The first of that guy's videos I ever saw was the one with the cows.
Cows, that's how I found it too.
I always hated the one that had all the teeth. That one always frightened me.
7 billion is the one that fucks with my head. With the giant monster rabbit.
Oh
Hey,
yeah,
good
that
music.
one too.
Yep, all composed by himself.
Why are they cute?
Because all kitties are cute.
Even the mutant ones.
Even the mutant kitties, yes.
And speaking of mutants, boy, when we get to my choice.
A valiant attempt to get back on track, Midori.
Yes. Has everybody finished watching Kitty City or pause for a second?
I've
Yeah.
got to watch this.
Okay, we'll pause just for Illya to watch it. For curiosity, I'm at the bit where they're vomiting out of each other's brains.
I want to know how long this took to put together.
Couple of days.
Longer than necessary.
More time than should have been put into it in the first place.
He's done a couple of horse-based ones since then.
Oh yeah, I've seen them.
I think one got advertised on Equestrian Daily at one point, didn't it?
I'm having
think
Steven
so.
Universe flashbacks. Well, that happened.
And now you have been inducted into Sirup's world.
You're
You
welcome.
should totally check out all the other ones.
They're amazing.
They're a treat.
Cows is the one most people come to.
No sane person would imagine that.
Did you have to say come to?
Ah ha 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 ha.
Yes. Very
Yes.
specific choice
Yes, I
of
did.
words.
Right.
To
As soon-
specifically illict visions. Sorry.
Well, as
didn't
soon
mean
as
to
Illya's
interrupt you.
finished, we will go back to the actual
I'm
podcast.
finished. I'm
Okay.
done.
Right. So we just finished with Mammy, haven't we? Mammy's
think
apparently
so.
just finished with us.
I didn't know you were asking me. Sure. I have a couple movies I like, but I don't know if we could do like honorable mentions at the end or something.
Sure, we can do honorable, but we can do that.
Yep.
Right. Midori, then. What is your favorite horror movie?
My favorite horror movie of all time is the 1982 The Thing.
Yay!
No bias from Illya at all. So then, what is The Thing about?
So the movie starts with a Swedish helicopter chasing after this dog in the Arctic tundra, trying to shoot the dog, trying to kill it, and they end up at this American base where they end up shooting the guy who's trying to kill the dog in self-defense, and then suddenly the dog, when it's kennelled with the rest of their dogs, it mutates and starts absorbing all the other dogs and becomes this monstrous creature that they burn alive. And they don't discover this before bringing a mutated corpse from the Swedish base back to their base to examine it and do an autopsy. And that's when they realize, like, that this, like, weird infection has started to break out amongst them, this like alien infection. They discover a flying saucer, and when this infection gets inside of you, these creatures, they can replicate human organs, and every part of their body can act on its own to try to break away and infect other people. So they realize the only way to kill these things is to burn them alive, and literally anybody could be the thing. and a lot of people end up becoming the thing. Like, it's a very horrifying experience. There is a scene where one guy seemingly has a heart attack, and while the doctor's trying to use a defibrillator on him, his stomach opens up full of sharp teeth and bites off his arms. And in that same scene, while they are trying to burn his body, his head detaches itself, grows spider legs, and tries to crawl away. It's so crazy. And one of the best things about this movie, aside from the sheer mystery of who could be one of the monsters, is that the entire movie is done without a soundtrack, so you can't anticipate when anything is going to happen. They don't build up to stuff with music to kind of warn people that something is going to happen. Stuff just happens, and you never see it coming. It's amazing. The entire atmosphere of that movie is so scary. And then the way that the movie ends, like, you're left wondering, is one of these two guys infected or not? Are they going to freeze to death? Like, what's going to happen now that everything's been said and done? It is one of the best horror movies that I've ever seen in my entire life, and I love it to death.
Okay then, so I know that he wants to speak about this. Illya.
I would have chosen this as my movie if you hadn't already gotten it. This was the most amazing movie I ever saw. And that includes a lot of benchmark movies like Terminator 2 and Jurassic Park. This was before CGI. These were all practical effects. Amazing practical effects by Rob Bottin. And so they managed to put this together with stop motion and bits and pieces, and it would just scare the ever-loving shit out of you. You didn't know. At one point, this guy was using a defibrillator on this fellow. Suddenly, the chest opens up, the ribs become jaws, and clamp down on both of his arms, ripping them off. And he's walking around screaming with bloody stumps. It's just, you wouldn't, so realistic from the practical effects that you wouldn't believe it. Let me read this one part from the internet that talks about that particular effect. In order to pull this off, special makeup effects designer Rob Bottin, known for his work in RoboCop, Total Recall 7, and The Fight Club, found a man who had lost both of his arms below the elbow in an industrial accident. Bottin fit the man with two prosthetic forearms consisting of wax bones, rubber veins, and jello. Then, for a wide-angle shot, he fit the man with a skin-like mask taken from a mold of the actor's face who was portraying it, and placed the ersatz arms into the chest cavity, where a set of mechanical jaws clamped down on them. As the actor pulled his arms away, the jello arms severed below the elbow, and then they had the stuff squirting all out of them. It's a fantastic movie with practical special effects. It was so good, in fact, that I don't do this as a rule, I went and saw it alone. And I went and grabbed my best friend and his wife and practically dragged them back to the theater to see it with me. I said, "You've got to see this movie." It was astounding to me.
Would anybody else like to stand this movie or have an opinion on it?
Well, I saw it only more recently, just several years ago, and it is a stunning movie. The tension, especially because they really leave it open. Anyone, including what you perceive to be the main character, could be this thing. And I especially love that the Swedish man who's at the beginning shooting at this dog, you can actually hear him saying, "That's a thing. It's not a dog, it's a thing." But of course it's in a foreign language, and I'm an ignorant American, I'm sorry. But there is one piece of music, which is the opening theme, and it is such this haunting, almost heartbeat, that it sticks with you after you leave the movie. Driving home at night, I hear that, after seeing that movie, I heard the song in my head the whole way there.
Well, John Carpenter, the director, he did all the scores to all of his own movies, which part of it was he was legendarily a bit of a control freak when it came to the creation of his films, and also that way he got to pay himself to be a composer from the studio. But he not quite micromanaged, but he directed the absolute boo hockey out of every single second of the thing, and he was very, very exacting in his directorial choices. This is a film that I know kind of inside and out for various reasons, one of which being it's my mum's favourite movie of all time, close to Whose Life Is It Anyway? And therefore I watched this movie when I was maybe 9 or 10, which is not a good age to watch this movie when you're scared of everything. This might be one of the reasons I was such a scaredy cat. But yes, the practical effects are, I don't think there's any other word for them but legendary. I mean, has everybody seen this film in chat? Well, raise your hand if you haven't seen The Thing.
I'll raise my hand.
Yeah,
Okay.
I haven't seen it yet.
If you haven't seen it, watch it at least to see what practical effects can be. Because by now, there aren't any more. Everything's CGI, it's cheaper. This is like the last huge, wonderful set of practical effects before CGI took over.
Oh yeah, this is the next one my friend's gonna make me watch because I'm all into the creature design and stuff, and they were like, you have to watch this one, and we just didn't get around to it yet.
Well, that's... The practical effects are something of a sore point with a lot of the Thing's fan base, and Midori probably knows this already, about the sequel prequel that came out in 2011.
Boo.
Yeah, those noises from you two. Yeah, the sequel prequel, called such because it's set before The Thing. It is set on the Swedish base and describes what happened there. But it was also a sequel because it came out in 2011. And originally, it was very faithful to the vision of the original, and it had all practical effects. Everything was done on set on the day of filming. And when it was close to completion, a studio head stepped in and said, "We don't like the way that looks. Go over everything with CGI." Not realizing that the reason it didn't look good at that moment was it hadn't been finished. So they saw the dailies, they saw the film footage that had just been taken on set that day, untouched, and said, "Ugh, that doesn't look good." Of course it didn't, it was a daily. But they said, go over everything in CGI. And so they paid people to go and draw over the practical effects on film with CGI versions of the same fucking thing.
That sucks so bad. I just want
Does.
to kill people.
And when you see, because there are comparisons online of the early footage versus the CGI versions, and it's chalk and cheese. The early versions are phenomenal, even in their unfinished form, compared to the shitty CGI, because it wasn't even that they bought good CGI. We're not talking Game of Thrones. We're not talking Disney levels of this. We're talking it looks like it came out in the early 2000s.
It looks like it was on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yes, it does. It's sad to say that this big blockbuster movie looks like an asylum movie.
I'm so glad I didn't see that.
Well, I need to contest one thing, though. My boo is not because of the CG. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm used to bad CG. I grew up when CG was just getting its foothold. No, my thing is that the heroine of this movie, which there is no doubt she is the main character, she can just look at you, stare for a little while, and know if you're the Thing or not.
Yeah, that
She just knows.
Yeah.
that was a weird decision. Like, what? And there was another scene in the Thing that always bothered me. Like, the whole goal of the Thing is to get off of the base and assimilate mankind. So why, when that one thing is actually getting off, is in the helicopter and everything, it just out of nowhere suddenly decides, hey, this is a great time to mutate and kill everybody on the helicopter. And then the helicopter goes down, blows up, and they all die, including that particular Thing. And I'm just like, wait, why the hell did it do that? I thought it wanted to get away.
I never got the feeling that the thing had a great deal of intelligence.
I will say, in defense of that one character, I always thought, and I assumed that was what they were going for, that when she stares at someone, she's looking for, like, metal things. So, like, an earring, a gold tooth, a nose ring, something, a defining thing that, because it's on record that the thing can't emulate metal, which is why they, in the sequel prequel, the reason they realized that the thing is emulating people is one of them, they find it inside the thing's stomach, and this man is being cloned inside the thing's stomach, but it can't clone, I think it's like a metal plate that he had in one of his limbs.
Yeah.
And so I always assumed that that's what she was doing when she was staring at people.
Yeah, they found like the remains of one of the things cloning somebody, but like all their like jewelry or something was like on the ground with the blood.
Yeah, which I suppose in the original that must mean that none of them had jewelry at any point. All too manly men in early 80s beardy gruff McMen.
Hey, don't say that. Mr. T will get upset. A pity fool.
Does that mean that the thing, the alien from the thing, its ultimate enemy would be Mr. T in full jewelry?
I pity the thing that come around here trying to resolve Mr. T.
Just on a slight tangent, I fucking love the fact that Mr. T changed his name to Mr. T, and literally on the form that he filled in to change his name to Mr. T, when they went middle name, he just put the period, Mr. T.
Oh, God.
And he literally, he makes his mum call him Mr. T, because he went on a talk show and they said, so what does your mum call you? He went, same as everybody else, Mr. T.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
He's committed to his craft.
Definitely. I mean, the reason he did it was because he said that people weren't taking him seriously. I think he was either a bouncer or a wrestler or something, and people were not showing him any degree of respect. So he changed his name to something whereby they would have to address him with the Mr. part of things. And it made a great wrestler's name later on, but it was to gain that bit of automatic respect from people, which it's a sad beginning to an awesome thing. Scribbler made a fun thing, not fun.
I learned something today, though, so, I mean...
I feel enriched.
Yay! Come to the podcast for dick jokes and learning. Da-da-da-da.
The best combination of things.
Right, so keeping on standing the thing, who here has seen it and has other opinions on it? Nobody! Fine, okay.
It's hard because everything that I would say about it has already been said. Like what Illya covered, the practical effects are amazing, and I know people who are like movie effects buffs rave about it, and the plot is solid. There's not much to say besides it's good.
Well, there is the cliffhanger at the end, or not really cliffhanger, but the unspoken question: is Childs, the other sole survivor, is he a thing?
I find it a bit amusing that a couple of points that I brought up with my initial description of the movie have been recounted.
Well, it was a very all-encompassing summation, but we never answered the question. Do you think he is a thing? Because one thing I heard I forget from whom I heard this. If you watch the footage, I think it's Child's breath is not misting in the cold.
Yes, I had heard about that, and apparently John Carpenter said it was when they filmed on the day. It really was. It was just the film footage wasn't picking it up, and apparently in the HD remaster, you can see the breath.
Well, that just undoes a lot of film theories. Harumph!
Well, you can always go back to look at the comic continuation.
Oh, no. I saw Linkara's reviews. No.
There's a comic.
Yes, there are several. You need to read them, because they are fucking insane. Like, they do indeed involve the thing absorbing an entire herd of sheep, and therefore Childs has to go and punch all the sheep. Now everybody's just got that mental image. Linkara did do a review, as Sylv said. Go and watch that.
I might have to. Wow.
He used to do one like every year at Halloween, so there's quite a lot of different comics from quite a lot of different publishers, all continuing the same story from The Thing. And funnily enough, as batshit insane as they are, they're all better than the prequel sequel.
Campfire Stories, starring The Thing.
That does beg the question. Do you think the thing itself, as an alien, does it work? Because it works as a monster in a monster movie, but does it work as an alien?
I think
Because it's a very interesting concept.
what my theory is that the thing isn't so much an alien as much as it is a infection that probably killed the aliens that were on that UFO and assimilated them.
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that.
It's more like a virus, really.
Yeah,
it's
it's
not particularly intelligent.
It's a parasitic disease from space.
But even then, that is an alien disease, I guess. There's one theory that's out there. There's a scene where a character who's later revealed to be a thing, he's calculating what would happen if this thing hit the mainland. And it concludes like 72 hours until the entire human race is assimilated. There's a theory that I heard about that because this guy is the thing, he's actually learning his own abilities. He's trying to look it up. He's like, what can I do?
It's possible. I hadn't thought of that.
Do you think it like absorbs the thoughts and feelings of what it eats? I think.
Well, it certainly seems to have a technical knowledge as it was building a flying saucer, and although it was so tiny, I think that's the one absurd thing about the movie. You see this little saucer, and you think of the actor who's currently playing the thing in disguise. Try picturing him flying across the ocean in that little saucer. He looks like George Jetson.
Yeah, it is like that.
Just making that noise across the ocean.
But even if the thing is an infection or a disease and it's just becoming more intelligent as it absorbs intelligent life, it is still alien because it offends every sense of the human concept of being. We envision fixed forms. Most aliens we see in movies are a fixed shape, often humanoid. The thing is eldritch in its otherworldliness. It can be almost anything. And that's what makes it so frightening. The scariest monster is the one you can't see, it's in the shadows or it's in your mind. But here's something that can be anything, and therefore it's still physical and terrifying.
That brings up things like Invasion of the Body Snatchers with the Red Scare and that analogy of the enemy could be your neighbor, your loved one, your mother, your wife, your husband, your pet. And it does take it that extra step of it could be literally any living thing. So it's almost like a progression of that early, subtly subversive horror cinema, but taken to the nth degree, which is just making it even better.
Part of the charm of it was... Oh, excuse me.
The thing is Illya's phone. It's rumbled us. Run!
Sorry about that.
Get out of there, quick!
Part of the charm of it was that these people were all friends. They were all people who really were very much comrades in a small space in the middle of nowhere. And they were used to that idea of camaraderie. And now, suddenly, they're faced with the idea, I've got to flame torch this guy who's been my best friend for so long, just torch him into non-existence, just because he's changed into this thing. And that's very much metaphoric, I think.
I always thought that maybe they should have... In the sequel prequel we never got, I would have loved there to be a scene where somebody, like, flamethrowers someone thinking they're a thing and it turns out they're not. Because I don't think we've ever seen that in one of the films or the comic where there is that suspicion and people act on it and it turns out to be wrong, which is another level to the horror of it. What if you do get it wrong? And what if you do act out of your paranoia and end up murdering the innocent and missing the monster?
Well, I recall there was a moment in the original movie where one guy thought the main character was one of the things, and he came at him with a knife, and he ended up the main character killed him defending himself.
That's arguably self-defense, though.
Yeah, true. We as an audience, because the protagonist is MacReady and because he is the audience surrogate in a lot of ways, he's framed in such a way that we as an audience have to assume that he is not a thing. See what I mean? That we've no confirmation that he's not. but in a lot of ways we do, because why else would the filmmakers make him the audience surrogate?
Well,
And again, I would have liked that in the sequel prequel if it turned out that the main character was the one who was the thing at the end and just completely rocked the boat.
yeah, like the really in-depth, like, whackpot theory that I think I could come up with is that this particular thing is, like, it's trying to kill all of the others of its own kind so that it can kind of create a clean slate for itself so that everybody trusts it and everything, and it can accomplish its goal.
Maybe.
Well, if we want to talk betrayals or turning on one another, actually look again to the thing itself. In the scene Midori described earlier with the head scurrying away on little legs, it features the greatest F-bomb in cinema history, where
Yes.
because the guy who points it out, he sees it, he points it out to everyone so they can torch it. It's revealed later that he himself is assimilated. So basically the thing threw itself under the bus to keep its cover. As quoting from a SF Debris, a reviewer I enjoy, he kind of pictures that little head shaking a leg at the guy going, "You bastard! You sold me out! I'll get you for this!
Yes.
Damn you, me!"
Yeah. Which does beg the question of the pieces that break off from the thing. We know that they're all alive, but are they independent minds, or are we talking more of a hive? In which case, when they torch the head, does the rest of the thing, that clone person, does he feel its pain? Is it like cutting off one of your own arms and that level of pain? Or is it literally it's become sentient and its own personality? So many questions!
Well, and that's part of the horror again, that this thing is viewing the world through a mindset that is impenetrable to us. We don't even, there's no understanding it. It's not meant to be understood. That's what makes it frightening.
Exactly.
I agree with that.
Yes. So that's celestial horror type thing. It's almost Lovecraftian. We cannot even begin to comprehend the horror with which we are faced. Ooh.
And so everybody went insane, killing each other.
Oh, wait, I think you just described the 2020 political scene.
Ouch.
You're not wrong. One moment, my cat's just turned up. I've got to get him in and out of the garden.
And now it's a podcast.
It's a podcast only when Pusscat turns up and derails things for a second.
That requires things to be on the rails in the first place.
We were on the rails.
We were brushing along them.
We were brushing along on moonlight rails.
Old Man River.
You just keep rolling.
She's gonna come back to Illya drunk, singing by himself.
Just the whole chat empty except for Illya by himself singing.
That's so scary.
Sounds like the start of a horror movie.
That old man river, he just keep rolling along.
I can't push to talk and clap, but in my heart I'm clapping.
See, I say we all leave if he starts going with 99 bottles of beer on the wall.
Bottles of wine. Thank
Listen
you.
to the sound of one hand clapping. You're welcome.
I'm sure we've all
Fair.
heard that at some point. When your cats are suspiciously quiet, so you have to make sure they're still alive.
It's probably a good idea.
I mean, those cats, they do some crazy shit that can get themselves hurt.
Coming home in that chemical she talked about, or the residue.
Ugh, I don't even want to think about it. My little bastard is such an idiot. He'd probably do that too.
My kitten somehow got on the staircase railing, jumped off it trying to get a fly, did a flip in the air, and almost landed on his frickin' head.
Did he get the fly?
No, he's still chasing that fly. Like, it's been a few days, and he's just chasing that thing around the damn house.
For entertainment.
It is for his entertainment because we can't let Zorro outside. He's too young still.
You shouldn't let cats outside at all.
Our cat...
Don't get me on the topic.
My cats must be boring in comparison to your guys'. Then they just sit and eat, and one of them is just nothing but a giant ball of fat and fluff.
Well, mine's 1 year old and used to be a stray and has PTSD from me accidentally hitting him with my car. So there's a lot of intrigue in him.
Well then, this sounds like quite the story.
How do you think I got him?
Fair.
My sister has a Pomeranian that has PTSD from a plastic bag full of trash falling on her. Now, anytime that she sees like a plastic bag, like we walk in with groceries and she sees those grocery bags and she just backs off to the side like, oh.
No.
My old dog Logan fell in the pool once, and it was like when he was a puppy too, but ever since then, like anytime we would try to go swimming, he would rush to the edge of the pool and just bark at us the entire time we were in there until we got out. He would freak out.
Oh my god, Hollow, your baby is adorable!
I'm back.
That's Evie.
She looks like an Is it a she or a he?
She.
She looks like an Eevee! Oh my god, it's so freaking cute!
That's Hollow's dog, isn't it?
Yes!
Oh, I've seen Hollow's dog running about in videos. Adorable little beep, 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 beep. Nod.
She's a little poof ball of energy in hell.
And yet look at that face. You forgive her everything, don't you?
That's her I'm going to go fucking crazy face.
Yep. I've seen that look. I saw that look in a Doberman. That is unreasonably adorable.
And she knows it.
I miss Lola. Like, I don't live with my sister and her Pomeranian. She was a pure white Pomeranian, so she was just a little powder puff snowball of cuteness. And she also had a limp back leg that she was born with, so she was constantly like running around on 3 legs. It was really precious.
Evie's a palm. It must just be a palm thing.
The smell of the dog with all the energy. Who else here has pets? I know that Mammy has cats.
Do you want me to list all of them?
I mean, you can if it's a big list.
It's a huge list, if I remember correctly from Hollow's Twitter post.
Really?
Yep, let me do it. Okay, we've got 4 dogs, 3 cats, 2 rabbits, 3 salamanders, 4 leopard geckos, an axolotl. We've got a crested newt now, and then we've got the other crested newt, and we've got 2 betas, a bunch of little fish I don't know the name of now, 2 frogs. Did I say 2 salamanders yet? Because I think we have those still.
Yeah.
And there's another one in Ashley's room that I don't know what it is.
Another just random animal?
They have lots of scaly things.
Oh.
Do you live in a reptile house?
That's literally just in my sister and her fiance's room.
Wow.
So yes, they live in a reptile house.
I and my badgers and Pusscat feel very put upon right now. It's like, right, we've been outdone. Off you go, guys. Shit, one of them is here in the garden and just looked up at that moment. It's like he heard me.
They're watching.
Where are your pets?
Well done.
Yay!
Well, I feed you and put out medicine for you, you bastard. So yeah. Silver, do you have any pets?
My family has a golden retriever.
Aww.
She is wonderful.
Yeah, dogs are great.
I deal with 2 cats and a dog.
You deal with them.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, I basically live in this truck at this point, so, I mean, they ain't mine.
Ah. So all animals in the wild are your pets right now.
Exactly.
And also the truck to a degree. Hey, Midori!
Yeah?
No, that's it. No. He looks after the truck. Hi, Midori.
Oh.
Mid-trucky.
So I guess that makes... There are implications here that I don't know if I want to explore them, so
Me
I think I will
neither,
just leave
which
that
is why
be.
I'm just being silent and playing the fool.
That was the original context, so you're right to skirt it.
Freaking Scribbler with her goblin giggle.
That one was intentional, though. Right, should we go back to the actual podcast? Oh my god! I was gone there! Oh, shit! Ah! Wow!
Speaker will stop the habits. Kill the habits.
Stop it, both of you! This is too weird!
No, we can't. We can't kill the habits.
Kill the habits.
But these is my friends.
Kill them.
Don't have to be so pushy.
Kill the habits. Yeah, okay.
We talk about horror movies now instead of being in one.
I'm sorry.
No, you were really good at that, and it was getting quite scary.
I'm actually very good at a golem impression, yeah.
I heard! Oh shit, I'm just frightened of a badger then.
I think we were on Silver Quill.
Right,
Yep.
okay. So, we're finished with the thing. Silver, what is your favorite horror movie and why?
Well, I may be what I asked of Mammy earlier with Resident Evil. Is it horror action or action horror? Mine's comedy horror or horror comedy. Army of Darkness.
Ooh.
This is the continuation of the Evil Dead series, which started as an attempt at horror, low budget, and then they embraced the fact that they were corny. And so they said, you know what? If we're going to be thought of as the corny horror guys, let's go all in. Basically, Ash, a grocery store clerk well, not even grocery store, but, blue collar worker turned badass, is thrown back in time to the medieval era, where he has to both defend the land from the armies of the undead, and also find a way to get back home through the Necronomicon, the Book of the Dead. I saw this movie back in college, but I never inhaled. And basically, I wasn't sure what to think going into it. So every moment that I thought, oh, this is going to get really intense horror, it would subvert that and just become so corny over the top. It was delightful. There are scary images and I think some very effective, tense moments. But each time it just became this cheese fest, and I found it delightful. So I think the scariest image for me is there's a scene where Ash is about to split into good and evil Ash. Good, bad, I'm the guy with the gun. But there's this eyeball in his shoulder looking at him and blinking. And it kind of like The Thing. There's something so wrong about that image that it just sticks with you.
Yeah, it's Sam Raimi, isn't it? The director.
I think so.
Yeah, because I remember he is sort of the king of schlocky horror comedy before he went on to do Spider-Man.
Well, the story of Spider-Man is a horror tale in and of itself.
Yes, it definitely is.
Too soon?
Maybe a little.
Especially all the recent stuff.
Yeah, for context for listeners, we are recording this like less than a week after the Disney-Sony split.
But anywho, this movie, it stands out. Bruce Campbell, he just sells it. I mean, he is Ash. He loves being Ash. He loves the corny one-liners. And you could tell he's just having fun with the role and enjoying. It's groovy.
Yes.
So, I mean, maybe it's a dodge because it's certainly not the most scary horror film you'll see. It doesn't have the raw lasting power of fear, more comedy or just sheer badassery, the 80s action hero in its most undiluted, pure, absurdist form.
Okay, so who here has seen Army of Darkness?
I have.
What do you think, Midori?
I thought that movie was amazing, and to make sure that I had context going into that movie, because I really wanted to see that movie, but then I said to myself, you know what? Before I watch this movie, first I'm going to watch The Evil Dead 1 and The Evil Dead 2, and I did. I rented all 3 movies at the same time from a library of all places. And
wow.
Yes. And I watched all 3 movies back to back. FYI, the scene with all the laughing in the second movie was the funniest fucking thing ever.
Yep. Just where the Dutch angle comes in, you're like, okay, we have officially left the rails.
But the third movie, I remember it being such a huge difference from the first 2 movies. They just really went ham in with that whole thing. God, I remember my favorite scene of that movie was the damn London Bridge scene.
Now, I haven't seen this movie. I've only, again, seen it through reviews and other people talking about it, so I'm going to need some context for a London Bridge scene.
So there's a scene where a bunch of tiny little hymns are running around the room, terrorizing him, and he gets really pissed and starts stomping after them, going, London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. And then one of them pulls a fucking nail in his stomping path, and he's just like, London Bridge is falling down. And all the little ones are like on top of each other's shoulders going, my fair lady, ha!
Oh my gosh, that sounds insane.
Oh, it is.
Jesus.
Ash is in the main character's name. Ash. He's in a competition almost with the Army of the Undead to see who can get the best one-liner in.
See, the only one-liner I know from the Army of the Dead is "I'll swallow your soul, I'll swallow your soul." So, examples, please.
Well, let's see here. Well, one, Ash and Evil Ash both say, "Give me some sugar, baby," to the attractive, but damsel in distress. Let's be clear. This movie does rely on some cliches, including the quote-unquote heroine basically spends most of the movie running and screaming and getting captured. Let's see. What are some great one-liners? There's a scene where a skeleton, this is the opposite of the thing. The practical effects are, I think, intentionally bad. But the skeleton is crawling up to Ash in the middle of this fight. He's going, I'm going to cut your gizzard. Next thing you know, Ash leaps up on this pulley system. Skeleton's like, hey, where'd he go? Sandbag lands and crushes its skull. Actually, my favorite, the evil Ash, as he's commanding this army of skeletons and bad rubbery demons, when he sees that good Ash has introduced gunpowder into this timeline. He had a chemistry book in the back of his car.
Whoops! I'll guess he never heard about not fucking up the timeline then.
That's not really a concern with Ash.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Yeah, so seeing his army getting blown up left and right, the evil Ash is like, oh, and he just sells the look. He's trying to be decked out as this fearsome warrior, and he's just sort of at a loss for words. It's hilarious to watch.
I remember the look on his face in that scene.
You're making me want to go watch this now. It's like, I wonder if that's on Netflix.
Pirate it.
This is actually the movie where Hail to the King Baby and This Is My Boomstick came from. Those lines,
really?
Yes, this movie is where those lines came from, as well as a good one, yo, she-bitch, let's go.
Okay, I've not heard that one before.
Yeah, he says that to the witch in the movie.
That sounds like something Ripley would be saying to the alien queen. So who else has seen Army of Darkness? Because, like I said, I don't know this movie well enough to form opinions on it. I just want to go watch it now. Who else has seen it? Illya?
Hello? I haven't seen the movie, but I have never disliked anything I've seen Bruce Campbell in. I've loved him from the very beginning. I think his first thing he did was this Briscoe County Jr. That may have been before or after the movie.
Yes.
But that was a wonderful show, and I was a huge fan of Burn Notice. I loved him in that. So I can't imagine any movie where he wouldn't make it shine.
Oh no, he is a joy.
He really is. I swear, there was an Evil Dead remake in, 2013, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And doesn't he, turn up at the end of that?
He turns up after the credits just to deliver his groovy line. The movie is trying to be very serious horror.
Yeah, I remember someone saying that that's one of the good remakes of horror that was coming out around that time.
And I guess it depends on what you're asking from it. I like that Evil Dead just embraced the corn. And so seeing this one trying to be super serious, actually the biggest thing I remember is that the guy who actually opens the Book of the Dead, it's bound it's wrapped up and bound in barbed wire. And he's cutting it to try and read it. It's like, you idiot. People don't do that for a normal book. You don't see anyone binding Twilight in that, do you? Though they should.
I just had to make sure the pony for a second there. That was a wrong image.
No, this is the other Twilight.
I like that image.
Whoa, boy.
Illya.
Illya?
Got dark Illya today.
Wow. It's the wine talking.
Oh my god. He's not God. He's Satan.
Why not both?
That's
Given current politics, I'd believe it.
Hey, Spawn did it.
That's an existential quandary.
Oh, Spawn is a good one, though.
Not the movie, though.
Definitely not the movie. But I guess it depends on what you want from Evil Dead. I love the corniness. They didn't need to try and be serious in my eyes, but other people may say, well, they were trying to be serious at the beginning, so this is accomplishing that goal.
I suppose the Evil Dead, the original, is so iconic that there would be no point in trying to remake it the same way. I'm thinking of the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, where they were literally using shot-for-shot remakes of the original, and Psycho in 1998 with Anne Hesh, and I forget his name, but he's now Happy Hogan. But it seems pointless to try and remake something that is defined by its classic nature. So maybe that was the reason they decided to go for a complete tonal shift.
I wish Disney would learn that lesson.
Fuck yes. Although maybe they are with Mulan. They might be doing it with Mulan.
Look at this shot. It's exactly the same, so the same as before.
When will my reflection show a different movie from the original?
Never! That's the true horror. Actually, the true horror is going to be when I see what they've done to Lady and the Tramp.
We're not talking about that one.
No, we're not, because I don't want to remember it exists. It's like they're trading on the fact that they were rescue dogs. Yay, but the fuck? Can we remake the Black Cauldron instead, please?
Can't make it worse.
I wouldn't mind that one.
Exactly. That's the whole reason it needs to be remade. Take the shitty Disney movies, the ones that didn't do well, and make them into blockbusters that will do well. So we can then look back on the early one and go, fond remembrance of that one because it inspired this new remake.
Although,
like the original Evil Dead before they remade it into Evil Dead 2.
But don't remake Army of Darkness. It works. It did what it was intended to do. It was, in my eyes, perfect comedy horror.
They don't need
and just a joy.
They don't need to remake Army of Darkness because it's got a TV show, Ash versus the Evil Dead.
Of course, yeah, I forgot about that.
Which is funny. It's actually got a better budget than Army of Darkness did.
Really?
Well, visually, it's got way better horror elements.
I just remember hearing that Lucy Lawless is in it.
She is? Yes.
Who does she play in that?
She plays, it's hard to describe. She's basically a character who's trying to organize evil, that she figures you can't kill it, you can't stop it, you might as well organize it and create sort of a sense of, well, balance in the universe. So she's not Ash's enemy exactly, but they do have rival goals. And in time, she becomes an unlikely ally, and then things get really complicated.
So kind of like the relationship their characters had on Xena Warrior Princess, then.
Where he was the king of thieves, yes.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen the last season because I heard bad news about that they wanted to continue another season, but they got canceled. Even though it was a great show. What? Again, it's like with the executive saying, CG over the thing. It's like, what are you guys doing? Why are you doing this?
The way I heard it with Ash vs. the Evil Dead, and I've only really encountered this through the Blockbuster Buster, who is a great YouTuber everybody should go and subscribe to because he's criminally underrated. But he described the ending as they left it open for if they did get a next series, but it's also, it closes enough of the storylines off that it makes a good ending. But there was the potential for more if they decided to go that route. Kind of like Buffy. The ending of Buffy closed off a lot of storylines, but also opened up a bunch of more. Yeah, I know, I didn't like it either, but I like what they were trying to do with it.
I wish people would commit, honestly.
I suppose that's the nature of American television, though, isn't it? That you never quite know if you're going to be cancelled or not. Especially since you. I say this as the proponent of British brevity in this, that we make a series and then release the series. And we don't release it until the whole thing has been made and finished. So we know where it's going. And I find it fascinating that American TV shows don't do this. That they are releasing them a couple of episodes ahead of when they're made. It's like, how do you do that? Because that means that you could get cancelled midway through. Like, which is what happened with True Calling, one of my favourite TV shows of all time. And it got cancelled midway through an arc.
Well, have you looked at all the huge number of American series that are opening at the same time. I mean, they just pile it on. So many networks, so many production companies. Everybody's trying to get their fist into the pie. It's just, it's madcap. It's crazy.
And it's all governed by which shows advertisers are willing to put their adverts on. Because I only learned that from a few years ago. I listened to Tina Fey's autobiography, where she has this whole section when they were trying to get 30 Rock off the ground, and when she was still working at SNL. And she said she went to this advertisers conference in New York, and it showed the sizzle reels of all these shows that were potentially vying to be made. And the only ones that got contract were the ones that advertisers at this conference went, yeah, we reckon we could get an audience to advertise out of that. And I didn't know that's how it happened. It's like, who has all the power here?
It used to be the way it has. I mean, advertisers were totally responsible for what was on television because they held the reins. That's changing now, though, because there's a lot of pay for. Like a lot of the television shows are being shown in Amazon Prime, and Amazon's responsible for a lot of the funding of the television shows, and Netflix is responsible for a lot of the funding for the shows they produce. So the marketing model is being turned around even as we watch, and things will be different in 10 years in the future.
So it's almost like the HBO effect, that you pay for the channel, not for the adverts.
Quite a bit like that, yes.
That is literally the concept of the BBC, that we all pay TV licenses so the BBC can have lots of money.
So we get more Good Omens.
How can you have more of Good Omens? The book is finished. Don't make them write more because you know the sequel will be shit.
No, we need like the 6,000 years before and just stupid things happening constantly.
You mean you just want Shipfic the sequel? And yes,
you want a rom-com.
You do.
Yes.
You want an Aziraphale and I forget the name of David Tennant's character.
Crowley.
You want Aziraphale and Crowley Shipfic in real form, don't you?
Yes.
Who doesn't?
I mean, you're not wrong. Right, okay. Does anybody else have any opinions on Army of Darkness?
You should all go see it. Go see it. It's fun.
I might have to watch the Bruce Campbell movies. I haven't seen them. I'd like to see them now.
This is what I like about these podcasts. So they always inspire me to go and consume media I wouldn't have either remembered about or even considered before.
Very useful.
Well, this is one of the things I'm hoping will come from my choice. Because mine's so off the wall, I'm not sure any of you will have even heard of it before. Because I was caught between two different things. And the first one was going to be the original Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween, because the original is always the best, and it set the standard for slasher movies through the ages. But quite honestly, I thought somebody else might have picked it already, and at the very least, we've had a John Carpenter film in this. So I went for something that I watched a few years ago, that I just wandered into the living room one day when my mum was watching something that had come on some television channel, and it was a film with subtitles. And as I was walking through the room, this just splash of green hit the screen, and it looked like, slime from an old Nickelodeon show. I was like, what the fuck are you watching, Mum? Because she doesn't watch children's programming, she doesn't watch animation, she doesn't watch any of that. She watches horror, and nothing but horror with minor breaks for reality TV. So I was curious as to what she was watching, and it turned out that it was this zombie movie, but it was a zombie horror comedy romance thing in the vein of Shaun of the Dead, but it was a Dutch film called Zombibi. And I sat down out of curiosity to watch it, and it turned out to be possibly the greatest zombie movie I have ever watched. And I'm counting Shaun of the Dead in there. The basic premise of this film is that there has been a zombie outbreak. Nobody knows quite how it's happened, where they've come from, and to be honest, the film's plot, it's kind of immaterial. And it's all centered around this little office worker and his friends who have been They've been arrested for smoking marijuana. And they're stuck in the police jail cell, watched over by this one female police officer when the zombie outbreak comes about. And the main character, he has this massive crush on this girl at his office, she's one of the archetypical mean girls and doesn't know he's alive. So he decides that he needs to get out of the police cell and go and rescue her. And his friends, who are wannabe gangbangers, but are all very much tryhards, that they are never going to be cool no matter how much they try. They all get out of the cell and set off with this lone police officer to fight their way across this zombie-infested city to try and get to a high point. Now, the high point is the office building that he works in, and they're all thinking, we can get there, and therefore helicopters can get us out of the city, and he's just thinking about this girl he wants to rescue so he can have a kiss. And it's about their comedy exploits of getting across this city to safety and what that involves. It's a very simple plot, but it is hilarious. I loved it to pieces. And I think that there's an untapped potential in foreign horror movies and foreign takes on what are tired old cliches and tropes. And while I don't think any of you will have seen Zombie, I showed Mammy the trailer at one point, but I don't think anybody else will have seen it. It's well worth a look if you ever get the chance. It's on YouTube. To just go and look at this, and the comedy stretches across the language barrier. At different points in the movie, you cut back to this TV series, a TV studio with a news broadcaster who's giving you periodic updates on the zombie outbreak. And at one point, he just randomly stands up and says, "Sorry, viewers, I need to take care of this." Brings out a random minigun from nowhere, shoots down all these zombies, sits down and goes, "Right, on with the news." And
It's amazing.
And at another point, I think the film ends on him. Like, you can probably guess that the mean girl has been turned into a zombie, and the female police officer ends up with the main character. But there is this wonderful moment where she has to slug the mean girl in the face and accidentally knocks her jaw off. But it doesn't end with the kiss or anything like that, or them being spirited away. It ends with this news broadcaster sort of rearranging his papers, looking at the camera and going, "Well, as long as I'm okay, we'll all be okay."
The show must go on.
Exactly. It's that kind of satirical horror, and it takes these tropes of a zombie movie that you'd expect and just has fun with them in the same way that Shaun of the Dead does. Probably in a less subtle way, to be honest. It's not as subversive as Shaun of the Dead, but it's a lot of fun. And thankfully it doesn't have anybody having to kill their own mum in this, which, my God, Shaun of the Dead, really?
Yeah, that movie was rough. Funny, but rough.
Yeah, thankfully Zombie doesn't have any scenes like that. The most they get is at one point they have a zombie granny in, those mobility scooter things that people ride around on.
Yeah.
I would love to see a zombie chase with that.
Well, she's still using it as a zombie. She doesn't get out and walk, even though she's a zombie. She drives
But
it
as
very
fast as a
slowly.
zombie.
Well, it's this tiny thing because the battery's dying, so she's driving it very slowly at them. And they're all screaming and running around going, "Ah, zombie!" as she is crawling toward them in a mobility scooter. It's
Me
just
at work.
I imagine you'd like to mow down after people at work because you work retail.
I can't say anything, I'll get fired.
I know that feel. That's as far as I'm going with that particular joke.
I like the idea of that movie having sort of one overarching plot, doesn't get caught up in a lot of subplots and stuff like that. You don't see very many movies that do that. They all want to complicate it too much.
Exactly. And I find that since The Walking Dead came out, the zombie genre on the whole has become very, very serious. Like, we had that little brief upbeat moment with Shaun of the Dead, and there was weirdly enough, it was an Asylum series, and I can't remember what it was called, but it was set after the zombie apocalypse, and it was an action horror comedy show, and I loved it. It's probably the best thing that Asylum's ever done, so of course they cancelled it. Hello?
Wasn't there a zombie romance movie a few years back? I don't remember what it was called, but it was like...
Warm Bodies.
Yeah, that one.
Warm Bodies. I remember it because I was the only thing I could watch on a plane ride. I saw the movie.
What's it like? I've not seen it.
I really don't know how to describe it, to be honest. I don't want to say, like, it's cringy, because it really was. I mean, I enjoyed it. I would call it a popcorn flick. It's one of those, if you have nothing better to do, it's not a bad choice. So...
Like, literally being on a plane.
Yeah, the easy. If it's a quick recap on the movie itself, it's basically it's from the point of view of a zombie, basically. And it's weird because it's like he talks. It's like he is still there and he is narrating himself as a zombie, sort of thing. It's weird.
Oh,
so yeah,
not at all what I was expecting.
Yeah, no, it's definitely weird. He goes about a day, he does the same thing every day where he walks. or something like that, and he has like a zombie friend he talks to, and then the normal people start coming into it, and then there's something at the end where I think there's another type of zombie. It kind of started to get confusing. But the idea it centers around him somehow kind of overcoming his zombie disease and kind of protecting a girl who got lost amongst all the zombies. So it's interesting.
There was a little bit more to it in that somehow falling in love with her restarted his heart back up and was slowly turning him back human. And there was a second type of zombie that were these like shriveled up white monsters or whatever that were too far gone to like have love turn them back into humans. So like at the end of the movie, like the zombies, when they like kind of like regain some of their sanity, they're like helping the humans pick off these monsters and like now are like living amongst humans again instead of eating them, trying to regain their humanity.
How optimistic. I like that idea.
Yeah, I had no idea about that, so maybe I'm wrong. Mami?
Yeah, the ending for that one was a little disappointing for me. Just because the premise and the setup of it was so interesting. Because there's another feature of that movie where the zombies who are too far gone have decayed so much that they're skeletal and like ghoulish. And once you get to that point, you can't be brought back. But as long as you're like a normal zombie, you still kind of remember being human and have some sentience to you. And part of the plot was if you ate another person's brain as a zombie, you would get their memories and you could see their life through their eyes. So the part of the reason why he was in love with that girl, aside from I think he had already been in love with her when he was alive, is he ate her boyfriend's brain. So he got like the memories of her boyfriend, and that was part of why he was so obsessed with her. And that was kind of like a big part of the movie, is this betrayal aspect.
I love that. That's fucking cool.
I might actually try and watch that one. I think that one is on Netflix.
Same, though. I have to watch it now.
Yeah. So you have to watch The Thing and then War Bodies.
It's really good.
Well, my friend wants to watch the Zombie one now because I sent them the trailer, so we're going to do that too.
Silver?
I just threw a link up in the chat for a short animated show about featuring zombies for an episode, and it had an interesting take. If you turn into a zombie when a zombie bites you, does a zombie turn human when a human bites it?
I ain't biting no zombie.
I like that premise. Suddenly the humans become the thing the zombies fear. So that seems like a pretty good place to leave it, with all the movies that we recommended to each other to go and watch on our free time, such as it is. Ha 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 ha. Who the hell has free time anymore? So this has been Babble Scribbler. I have been Scribbler, the moderator, such as I moderate anything, saying goodbye. And also goodbye from Chaotic.
Bye.
Illya Leonov. Illya's staying, apparently he's not saying goodbye.
He drank too much, he passed out.
Goodbye. I'm sorry, I forgot to push the freaking button.
That's just the perfect parable for this podcast. Magnetic Hollow.
Thanks for having me.
MamiDulugo.
Bye from the real moderator.
Midori.
Or am I?
And Silver Quill.
Been a pleasure.
Bye, everybody. Happy Halloween.
Bye, everybody.
I just realised that when I was doing that, I was literally waving. I just thought, what the fuck am I? There's nobody here. What am I waving at? Bye. Don't you wave, Chaotic. You're driving.
No, I'm not.
Aren't you? What's that noise in the background?
Oh, it's probably just the fan.
I would hope he's not.
It sounds like a computer fan.
Maybe you're just incredibly dexterous.
I will see you all in your dreams.
Yeah, but what kind of dreams? Wet dreams? Mm.
Wow.
What did you have?
Good.
Why do you have to always
Bye.
get there?
Because that's the note we're going to end this podcast on. Bye, everybody!
God.
Bye.